Tonight, you don't need to focus. You don't need to imagine anything clearly. You don't need to remember every word. Just let the sound of my voice stay with you as the day slowly fades away. If this helps you relax, you can gently like this video or subscribe so you can always find your way back here. There will be no sudden sounds, no interruptions, just a calm story and the quiet rhythm of the night. Now, take a slow breath in and let it go. The story begins. Blair rose early, the soft light of morning spilling through the narrow windows of the lighthouse. The small room was filled with the scent of salt and aged wood, a comforting blend that spoke of years spent watching over the harbor. He stretched, feeling the familiar creaks in his bones, and turned to the small table where his breakfast awaited. A simple meal, just bread and cheese, washed down with a cup of warm tea, was all he needed to start the day. After finishing his breakfast, he took a moment to gaze out at the harbor below. The calm waters glimmered under the rising sun, and boats bobbed gently in their moorings. A few seagulls circled lazily above, their cries mingling with the soft lapping of waves against the wooden posts that lined the dock. The village, still waking from its slumber, was slowly coming to life. Smoke rose from chimneys, and the air was filled with the scent of fresh bread from the bakery down the road. Stepping outside onto the narrow balcony of the lighthouse, Lid took a deep breath of the cool morning air. The breeze carried the tang of brine, refreshing and invigorating. He pulled on his well-worn jacket, its fabric soft from years of wear, and made his way down the spiral staircase. The lantern room was his first stop, where he had tended the light many times before. He carefully polished the glass of the lantern, ensuring it would shine brightly for any ships navigating through the narrowing strait. The routine was familiar, almost comforting, like an old friend. As he worked, his thoughts drifted, imagining the journeys of those who relied on the lighthouse's guiding light. While he enjoyed the solitude, there was something about the sea, its vastness and mystery, that filled him with a gentle longing. After tending to the lantern, the lid descended further to the main level, where the door led out into the harbor. The sun was now higher in the sky, and the village bustled with activity. Fishermen prepared their nets, and a child raced past, laughter trailing behind them like a ribbon in the wind. Blake greeted a few familiar faces as he made his way to the dock, his footsteps echoing softly against the wooden planks. At the edge of the dock stood the small rowboat he used for his daily inspections. He untied it with care, the knot coming loose easily in his weathered hands. Sliding the boat into the water, he stepped in with practiced ease, feeling the gentle sway as the boat floated free. With a few gentle strokes of the oars, Blake guided the boat past the moored vessels, their hulls painted in bright hues, some faded and others new. Each one had a story, a history that hummed beneath the surface of the water. As he rowed, he noticed a small detail that hadn't been there the day before. On the outer edge of the harbor, just beside the old fishing boat that had been there for years, was a cluster of driftwood, arranged as though someone had been building a small fort. Blood paused. Tilting his head slightly, he could see the way the wood was carefully stacked, yet it appeared abandoned as though the builder had left in a hurry. Curiosity nudged at him, but he brushed it aside, focusing on the task at hand. It was early in the season, and the waters were calm, but he always made it a point to check for debris and hazards. He finished his rounds faster than usual, the rhythmic strokes of his oars calming his mind, allowing thoughts to flow like the water around him. Once back on the dock, he tied the boat securely and made his way to the small workshop connected to the lighthouse. Here, he kept tools and supplies for maintenance, a sanctuary of sorts. The sunlight filtered through the grimy windows, casting patterns of light and shade on the worn floorboards. In this space, he repaired lanterns and crafted small items for the village, a tradition passed down through generations. As he worked, he felt the slow passage of time, marked by the soft ticking of a clock mounted on the wall. Hours slipped by like sand pouring through fingers. He lost himself in the familiar actions, savoring the silence, the solitude that wrapped around him like a gentle embrace. By midday, he ventured back outside, feeling the warmth of the sun on his face. The harbor was alive with activity now, voices mingling with the sound of waves. Lil walked along the dock, nodding to the fishermen who called out greetings. He stopped to admire the freshly caught fish displayed in wooden crates, their scales shimmering like jewels in the afternoon light. The fishermen joked and laughed, sharing stories of the sea while Lil listened quietly, content to be part of their world from a distance. As he made his way toward the market, he picked up a small basket of sun-warmed tomatoes and bread, the essentials for his afternoon meal. The market was bustling, filled with villagers trading goods and sharing laughter, the air rich with the smell of baked goods and fresh produce. Lay appreciated the vibrancy around him, even as he preferred the stillness of the lighthouse. After his shopping, he returned to the lighthouse, feeling the familiar pull of routine. He prepared his lunch at a small table overlooking the harbor, savoring each bite of the juicy tomatoes and crusty bread. Outside, the gentle breeze stirred the curtains, carrying the sounds of the village, the laughter of children, and the call of the sea, blending into a soothing melody. As the afternoon wore on, the sun began its descent, casting warm hues of gold and amber across the sky. Lit took to the balcony, watching the boats as they returned to the harbor. The light of the lighthouse would soon guide them home, a beacon of safety against the encroaching dusk. A sense of satisfaction washed over him as twilight settled in. The lantern needed preparing again, and he moved back inside. He filled the oil reservoir, checking the wick for any fraying. Each adjustment felt reassuring, a ritual of sorts. With the lantern tended to, he returned outside, watching the colors of the sky shift, the sun turning the horizon to deep shades of violet and blue. As darkness fell, Lil lit the lantern, the flame flickering to life in the cozy glass chamber. He stood for a moment, admiring its glow, a small but mighty guardian of the night. The world beyond the lighthouse was enveloped in shadows, but the light cut through the dark with steady determination. The village quieted as twilight deepened, the sounds of the bustling market fading into the background. Most villagers would be settling in for the night, but Alit took comfort in the stillness, a time where he could reflect in peace. With the kettle on the stove, he brewed a cup of tea and sat at the table, gazing out at the harbor. The lantern's light illuminated the waters, casting a shimmering reflection, a twinkling mirror that danced with every wave. He thought of the day's small mysteries, the driftwood fort and who might have built it. Perhaps it was a child seeking adventure or an artist finding inspiration. Time slipped away as he pondered, the teacup warm against his hands. The night deepened, and the stars began to twinkle like distant lanterns scattered across the fabric of the sky. Below felt a feeling of wonder, the mystery of the sea and sky ever present, yet so familiar. As the clock ticked softly, he finished his tea and prepared for the night ahead. The lantern shone brightly, a steadfast companion against the enveloping darkness. He settled into the small chair, a blanket draped across his lap, and let the calmness of the evening surround him. The gentle waves lapped against the shore, a lullaby of nature, echoing in the quiet harbor. Blake closed his eyes for a moment, embracing the serenity that wrapped around the lighthouse, the familiar sounds becoming a soothing rhythm. Outside, the world continued its gentle dance under the watchful eye of the light, and the lyre remained, a steadfast guardian of the night, ready to greet whatever mysteries tomorrow might hold. As the hours slipped gently into the night, Blake found himself lost in the rhythm of the harbor. The lantern, ever vigilant, flickered as the breeze swept through the narrow opening of the lighthouse, sending small shivers of warmth into the room. The light poured through the glass, casting warm shadows across the walls, while the soft sound of the waves continued to lull the world around him into a tranquil slumber. The clock's hands glided forward, marking time almost imperceptibly while the village outside deepened into stillness. Though Leh had seen the charming harbor village vibrant with life earlier in the day, he welcomed the peaceful cloak of night that now enveloped it. The faint sounds of laughter and chatter had faded, replaced by the occasional call of a lone gull gliding over the water, searching for the remnants of the day's catch. He pulled the blanket tighter around his shoulders, feeling the cool night air brush against his skin. There was a comfort in the solitude, a space where the troubles of the world felt distant. The lantern's glow felt like a friend, its flickering flame a constant reminder of the hope that came with each passing moment. He thought of how the lighthouse had stood steadfast against storms, guiding many a ship through turbulent waters. Its significance echoed in the hearts of those who sailed. Sliding his hand over the smooth wood of the table, he traced the grain absent-mindedly, lost in thought. The driftwood fort he had seen earlier floated back into his mind, vibrant and curious. He imagined children scurrying about on the soft sand, their laughter mingling with the crashing waves. He could see them now, their faces lit with delight as they constructed their fortress against the winds of the tide. Who were they? Where had they gone? The questions drifted through his mind like clouds across the moonlit sky, slowly unraveling as the night deepened. It was moments like these that filled Eli's heart with warmth. He felt part of a greater story that unfolded here, at the edge of the world. His days were simple, tending the light, brewing tea, and watching the ebb and flow of life, yet each small occurrence felt poignant against the backdrop of the vast ocean. The clock chimed softly, pulling him from his reverie. Blair rose from the chair, the blanket slipping onto the floor, and moved toward the window. He looked out at the harbor, the water glimmering under the stars, a canvas brushed with silvery hues. Everything felt alive in its stillness. The boats bobbed gently with the waves, their silhouettes sharp against the star-speckled sky. He stepped outside, the wooden door creaking softly as he moved into the cool embrace of the night. The air was crisp, tinged with salt and the scent of wet earth. The sound of the sea was louder now, a steady pulse that seemed to resonate with his own heart. He walked down the few steps leading to the rocky shore, each footfall gentle against the smooth stones, careful not to disturb the peaceful expanse before him. As he stood there, gazing out, a soft glow flickered in the distance, a lantern from one of the returning fishing boats. Its light wobbled with the movement of the vessel, twinkling as it made its way safely back to harbor. Bellew felt a swell of pride, knowing that he played a part in ensuring that ships found their way home, guiding them through the dark with a light of his own. Though he stood alone on the shore, connected only to the waves and the whispering wind, he knew that the lives of many crossed paths here, woven into the fabric of this place. He stayed there for some time, letting the cool breeze soothe him, the stars twinkling like old friends, watching over him. Eventually, the boat docked. The soft sound of wood scraping against wood interrupted the calm. Bellew turned back to the lighthouse, where the lantern still glowed, standing watch. As he made his way back inside, he filled his kettle once more, the soft clanking sounds grounding him as he resumed his evening routine. The gentle hum of the kettle filled the air, rising steadily until it whistled its quiet call. He poured the hot water over a fresh steep of herbal tea, the warmth of the cup returning to his hands as he settled back into his chair, the blanket once again draped over his lap. Sipping slowly, Bellew let the warmth seep into his bones, the aroma filling the space around him with soothing notes of chamomile and honey. He thought about the fishermen returning home, the stories they carried from the sea, the laughter echoing in their hearts as they recounted the day's adventures. The simplicity of this life, of waiting and watching, felt as fulfilling as the tales of conquest they would share. As the world outside quieted further, Bellew lost himself in the fabric of the night. He let his thoughts drift lazily, moving from the fishermen to the drifting boats and then to the unceasing waves. Memories of his own youthful adventures echoed through his mind, exploring the rocky shores, chasing the laughter of friends along the beach. He could almost see himself as a child again, a pair of simple wooden boats in hand, crafting grand tales of exploration and treasure. Through these memories, the night shifted imperceptibly, the clock ticking on, marking the passage of time. The stars twinkled outside, and the world seemed to breathe in tandem with Bellew, as though sharing in the secrets of the universe. Within the walls of the lighthouse, he felt cocooned in comfort, a guardian of the secrets held by the sea. As the minutes trudged on, he opened the window slightly, letting in a fresh breath of ocean air. The soothing sounds of the waves combined with the distant call of the night bird, wrapping around him like a gentle embrace. He sat up a bit straighter, allowing the sounds of the night to fill his senses. There were moments when he could almost hear the sea sharing its wisdom, tales of faraway lands and adventures yet to come. It was in these quiet hours that he felt a different kind of mystery, the kind that lived in the heartbeats of those who journeyed beyond the horizon. He wondered about the little fort of driftwood, and if the children would return to play once more. Would they add to their creation? Perhaps they would leave treasures hidden within for others to discover, small offerings to the spirits of the sea. His mind danced with images of youth and adventure, and as he settled deeper into thought, he began to sketch them in his mind the little ones, faces aglow with laughter, building their fort, daydreaming of kingdoms afar. He felt a warmth in his chest, a hope that the simplicity of joy and creativity would always flow through this village, its heart connected to the pulse of the ocean. The wind picked up slightly, rustling through the leaves of trees lining the harbor, sending a gentle shiver through the air. Blake could feel a shift in the night, a feeling of promise as deep as the sea. Though the hour was late, he let the moment linger, absorbing the beauty of the world around him. Slowly, he finished his tea, the cup now empty, and settled it carefully on the table by the window. Night had deepened, and the lantern's light stood unwavering, a constant against the dark. The lighthouse was more than a structure. It was a home, a refuge, a place filled with stories and secrets that would carry on through the ages. With the night stretching on, Alair returned to the window, gazing out once again. He marveled at the stars, each one a distant glimmer, holding dreams and wishes from so many. The tranquility of the harbor filled him with a feeling of purpose, a connection to something greater as he stood sentinel, resolute in his duty. As the clock chimed softly in the background, marking the passage of another hour, Liv felt his eyelids grow heavy, the warmth of the room and the lullaby of the waves coaxing him gently toward sleep. He knew that he would continue to watch over the harbor, cradled by the night, ready to guide those who returned to shore and to ponder the mysteries that awaited in the dawn. Settling into his chair, the faint light of the lantern flickering nearby, he closed his eyes and allowed the gentle rhythm of the sea to pull him into a peaceful slumber, safe in the knowledge that tomorrow would bring yet another day filled with adventure, connection, and the simple beauty of existence at the edge of the world. The gentle night draped the harbor in a velvety stillness, and as Eliz surrendered to the caress of sleep, the lighthouse stood firm, a steadfast guardian against the shadows. Outside, the moon hung high, a serene orb illuminating the water with a silver sheen, creating a pathway in the waves that beckoned to the distant stars. As the air cooled, a light breeze drifted through the open window, tugging playfully at the curtains before retreating, carrying with it the scent of salt and adventure. Time passed quietly, and the rhythmic lapping of the waves against the rocks became the heartbeat of the harbor, a soothing pulse that soothed the village into a deep rest. In the stillness, the world beyond the Liz Islands began to shift, as though painting new dreams upon the blank canvas of night. He found himself wandering through the vibrant memories of his childhood. He relished the feeling of warm sand between his toes, the sun casting a golden glow on the endless horizon, and the salty spray of the ocean mist against his face. Those carefree days were woven into his heart, a time of laughter, friendship, and the thrill of discovering uncharted shores. Yet, the peace of slumber was whimsical, and as dreams faded into the background, so too did the hour. Les stirred slightly, the lantern flickering in response to unseen currents of air, casting playful shadows that danced across the walls like the silhouettes of long-forgotten sailors. Underneath his eyelids, the dreamscape morphed, leading him toward a different kind of mystery, one that pulsed from the depths of the sea. He found himself at the water's edge, where the waves kissed the shore with gentle caresses. The moonlight etched silver trails upon the surface, creating a shimmering carpet that invited exploration. In the distance, he noticed a small boat bobbing quietly, its sails furled, waiting patiently for the wind to awaken it. He felt an urge to investigate closer, an irresistible pull guiding him forward. Stepping onto the cool dampness of the sand, he could hear the faint call of the night birds, their songs weaving through the air like a delicate thread. The canopy of stars appeared to twinkle more vibrantly as he approached, as though they were aware of his journey. Each step felt purposeful. The grains of sand shifted beneath him, cooling against his skin, grounding him in the moment. As he reached the small boat, he noticed that it bore the marks of a recent voyage. Traces of seaweed clung to its sides, and the scent of brine lingered in the air like a forgotten wish. Standing before it, He allowed his fingers to trail across the weathered wood, imagining the stories that held tales of fishermen casting lines into the depths, of sailors chasing dreams across the open ocean, and of adventures that echoed with each wave breaking against the hull. Curiosity swirled within him, and he peered into the boat's shallow hold, where he spotted a small object glinting in the moonlight, a brass compass, its surface dulled by time, yet still radiant. Philip picked it up, its weight familiar in his palm, as though it had belonged to him long before. The needle danced lightly, quivering uncertainly, caught between the magnetic pulls of the earth and sea. With compass in hand, he turned back toward the shore, where the light from the lighthouse beckoned like a beacon of warmth. And though he felt the tug of the sea call him to venture further, he cherished the sense of belonging that the familiar path provided. He walked slowly, the compass tucked away, feeling the pulse of the ocean echo in his own heart. As he reached the lighthouse, he paused, the door creaking open with a gentle sigh, allowing him to slip inside where the lantern's soft glow welcomed him back. The wooden floorboards creaked underfoot as he stepped further in, the cozy warmth of the room wrapping around him like a familiar cloak. He placed the compass carefully upon the table, its presence a quiet promise of the adventures that lay ahead, waiting to unfold. Les settled back into his chair, the lantern's flicker dancing with life, illuminating his surroundings. He felt a feeling of peace in the sanctuary, the soft hum of the lighthouse harmonizing with the whispers of the ocean just beyond the window. He could still feel the cool breaths of the night wrapping around him, tethering him to the mysteries he had encountered, as though the spirits of the sea wished to share their secrets with him. Time continued its gentle passage, and soon the sounds outside shifted, hints of life stirring in the village. The quiet calls of gulls began to rise with the tide, their cries mingling with the rustle of the leaves. The light through the window transitioned softly from silver to pale blue, announcing the arrival of dawn. Philip felt a pull within, a need to rise and step outside. He stood, stretching his limbs as he moved toward the doorway, the soft sound of his footfalls accompanying him through the stillness. Stepping outside into the cool morning air, he was greeted by a breathtaking sight, the horizon lightening, hues of orange and pink flooding the sky as the sun prepared to greet the day. He stood there for a moment, breathing deeply, allowing the beauty of the new day to fill him with a feeling of purpose. The village was gradually waking, small puffs of smoke curling from chimneys as fishermen prepared their boats for the day's catch. The sea, a canvas of shifting colors, welcomed the sun's rays, the water glimmering like diamonds scattered across the surface. Philip wandered down the path toward the pier, feeling the dampness of the wooden boards beneath his feet. As he walked, the memories of his dream floated through his mind, intertwined with the present moment, the compass, the stories of the sea, and the gentle pull toward adventure. He smiled, thinking of the children and their fort of driftwood, wondering if they would return today, bringing their laughter and imagination back to the shore. The village began to show signs of life. The distant sound of laughter floated on the breeze, the faint clatter of nets being tossed onto boats mingling with the calls of gulls overhead. Philip took a deep breath, letting the crisp morning air invigorate his senses, and he felt ready to embrace whatever the day would bring. As he approached the small cove where the children often played, Philip noticed their fort still standing, woven with the magic of their creativity. Amid the driftwood, there were hints of treasure, small shells, and colorful pebbles, tokens of youthful imagination left behind. He knelt beside the fort, wondering what new wonders they might add, and what stories would be woven into its walls today. Just then, he heard familiar giggles from behind him. 3 children bounded toward him, their eyes bright with excitement, sticky fingers clutching small finds from their morning adventures. "Elia, look what we brought," called out a girl with wild curls, holding up a vibrant starfish, its arms flaring out like a burst of colors. "Oh, that's splendid," he said, crouching to their level, delight evident in his voice. "What a wonderful treasure." The boy beside her chimed in, brandishing a handful of smooth stones, each glistening in the morning light. "And these, we found them by the water. Can we add them to our fort?" "Of course," Blair replied, his heart swelling with warmth as they placed their finds around the fort, each one a piece of their shared connection to the sea. It will be the most magical place on the shore. The children giggled, their laughter blending with the sounds of the harbor, filling the air with joy. They began to chatter animatedly about their plans for the day, their excitement contagious as they spun tales of grand adventures on the ocean waves. Below listened, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth, feeling grateful for this moment, for the vibrant life that filled the harbor with laughter and hope. As they continued to build and create, he let the children's energy wash over him, envisioning the possibilities that lay ahead, adventures woven into the fabric of everyday life at the harbor. The sun rose higher, casting a warm glow over the village, illuminating every corner with a feeling of promise. Bliss stood nearby, a watchful guardian, his heart full with the knowledge that the small harbor village had its own stories to tell, its own mysteries to uncover, and he was a part of it all, journeying alongside the heartbeats of those who called it home. With the day stretching out before them, filled with the laughter of children and the whispers of the sea, Blair knew the adventure was just beginning. With the morning stretching out in front of them, Blair rose to his feet, his gaze wandering back to the horizon. The sun continued its ascent, casting golden rays that sparkled on the calm surface of the water. The children, now preoccupied with their fort, busied themselves arranging the stones and shells with meticulous care, each piece adding to the charm of their creation. Their giggles danced on the salty breeze, filling the air with a feeling of innocence and joy. Billet enjoyed watching the children's creativity flourish before him. He admired the way they brought their imaginations to life, using the simplest of treasures to create something beautiful. With a soft smile on his face, he decided to wander a little closer to the shoreline, where the sea met the land in a gentle embrace. As he walked, the sand felt warm beneath his feet, soft and pliable, shifting with each step. Billet took a moment to pause, letting his fingers trace the edge of a piece of driftwood that had washed ashore. It was smooth and polished by the water, each curve and knot telling the story of its journey. He imagined the distant lands the driftwood might have seen, the waves breaking against its sides, the creatures taking refuge in its nooks. The tide lapped quietly at the shore, each wave pooling round his ankles before receding back into the sea. Blake closed his eyes for a moment, allowing the soothing rhythm to sync with the beat of his heart. There was something profoundly calming about the water's embrace, a gentle pulse that connected him to the world. He breathed in deeply, letting the scent of salt and brine fill his lungs, refreshing and invigorating, grounding him in the present. After a time, he made his way back to the children, who had now constructed a small throne of shells and stones alongside their fort. One boy, with bright blue eyes, had taken it upon himself to declare himself the king of their castle. "This is the best fort ever!" he exclaimed, his voice full of pride. The other children looked on with approval, reinforcing their imaginary kingdom with tales of adventure that awaited them. Billet knelt to join their circle, his heart light as he listened to their grand proclamations of bravery. "And what does the king say we shall do today?" he asked, his tone playful and encouraging. The boy tapped his chin thoughtfully, a serious expression on his face. "We must go on a quest, to find treasures of the sea," he declared, his small hand mimicking a grand gesture as he pointed toward the distance, where waves sparkled under the sun, inviting exploration. Billet felt a thrill of excitement at the thought of an adventure unfolding. "Then lead the way, Your Majesty," he said, and the children erupted in cheers, their laughter ringing out like music over the water. The group set off down the beach, Billet walking a few paces behind, allowing the children to take the lead. They ran along the shoreline, squeals and shouts carried away by the wind, their imaginations painting vibrant pictures of sea monsters and hidden islands. Blair reveled in their enthusiasm, watching their little feet dance across the sand, leaving a trail of laughter that blended harmoniously with the gentle crash of the waves. As they explored, they came across tide pools, glistening with life. The children knelt at the water's edge, peering into the shallow pools filled with tiny fish and delicate sea anemones. "Look, look at the colors!" a girl exclaimed, her finger pointing excitedly at a cluster of bright green seaweed. Billet crouched beside them, showing them how to gently lift a piece of seaweed, revealing the small creatures hiding beneath it. They marveled at the textures and hues, each moment filled with awe and discovery. Remember to be gentle, he reminded them softly. The sea gives us treasures, but we must respect them. The children nodded solemnly, their young minds absorbing the lesson, their faces determined to be good stewards of the tiny world they were uncovering. Hours flowed by with ease as they explored the tide pools, their laughter mingling with the salty air. The sun climbed higher, casting playful shadows as it warmed their skin, and Olive felt a contentment settle within him. He led them to find polished stones hidden beneath the sand, bright shards of glass that seemed to hold the essence of the sea spirit. Collecting these small treasures, the children filled their pockets, excitedly discussing how they would use them back at the fort. As afternoon rolled on, the sun began to shift, casting a warmer glow as it neared its zenith. They made their way back to the fort, arms full of newfound treasures. The children chattered animatedly, planning where to place each item, transforming the fort into a showcase of their day's adventure. Liz stepped back, observing the scene with a feeling of pride. This simple fort, built from bits of wood and sand, pulsed with life, a canvas of childhood dreams, shaped by laughter and imagination. He felt a spark of inspiration as he gathered the riches from the sea, imagining how he could incorporate them into the stories and legends of their small village, perhaps to pass down the tales of the brave adventurers who roamed the shores. The afternoon sun draped its warm blanket over the harbor, inviting everyone to gather for a moment of respite. Phyllis suggested they sit in the shade for a while, offering the children a chance to cool off. They flocked onto the sand, backs pressed against the warm wood of their fort, faces turned toward the sky. The ocean breeze tousled their hair gently, making them squeal with delight. As they rested, Liz shared stories of the sea of ships that had sailed from distant lands, of storms that had tested the courage of sailors, and of the mysterious creatures that lived beneath the waves. The children listened, wide-eyed and captivated, each tale weaving a thread into the fabric of their imaginations. As the sun began to lower in the sky, casting golden rays through the branches of nearby trees, Blip pulled out his compass and let it rest in the sand between them. The children gathered around, their faces curious. "What's that?" asked the girl with the wild curls. "This is a compass," he answered, tracing the delicate design etched into the brass. "It always points north, guiding sailors home." He held it up, letting the sunlight dance across its surface, a glimmer of adventure reflected back at them. "Can it guide us?" the boy asked eagerly, his eyes sparkling with excitement. Belit chuckled softly and nodded. "It can show you the way to discover new places and adventures, but sometimes you have to trust your heart, too, like the way you found your treasures today." The children looked thoughtful for a moment, then their chatter resumed, weaving the compass into their tales of bravery and exploration. The little king announced they would embark on a quest to navigate uncharted lands, with Lit as their seasoned guide, and they quickly devised flags using pieces of cloth and sticks to mark their territory. As the sun began to sink toward the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, Lit felt the sweet heaviness of the day settling into his bones. The children busied themselves with their preparations, creating a map drawn in the sand, and he couldn't help but wonder what stories they would carry home with them. It was a tender time, that quiet hour when the day meets dusk. Bliss stood to the side, watching the horizon, where the sky met the sea. The colors seemed to meld together in a breathtaking display of nature's artistry. He thought about the way life ebbed and flowed like the tides, and the simple joys that filled moments of connection. "Let's gather our treasures," he said softly, breaking into their spirited planning. "The tide will come in soon, and it's time to head back." Reluctantly, they packed their finds, each child carefully tucking away their treasures, their faces reflective of the day's delights. Standing up, Willis smiled at their little hands full of shells and stones, each piece a memory captured in the day's adventure. Together, they made their way back along the shore, the sun dipping lower, casting long shadows behind them. The golden light shimmered across the water, turning the waves into a canvas of flickering fire. As they walked, the sound of the waves whispered to them, secrets shared only with those who dared to listen. By the time they reached the fort, darkness had begun to weave itself into the sky. The bright colors faded, giving way to a deepening blue, while stars began to twinkle high above them. The children, now tired but invigorated by their day, gathered close around the Lith, who took a seat against the driftwood to rest. "Will you tell us a story before we go?" one boy asked, his voice weary but hopeful. Lith nodded, feeling a warmth spread in his chest. He began to weave a tale of the sea, a story about a ship lost in a storm that found its way home guided by the light of a distant lighthouse. The children leaned closer, their sleepy eyes reflecting the soft starlight as he painted scenes of adventure and bravery, of friendship and the bonds forged through trials. The gentle hum of the sea seemed to accompany his words, wrapping around them like a soft blanket, soothing and comforting. As Ellis spoke, the children's eyelids grew heavy, their bodies relaxing against the fort's sturdy walls. "Soon the stars will guide your dreams," he said, his voice low and calming. "And when you wake, the sea will still be here, waiting for you to return." As he finished his story, the children were already drifting off, lulled by the rhythmic cadence of the waves and the warmth of the day's memories. Lil watched them, content the harbor village, with its quiet charm and enduring spirit, settled into the tranquil embrace of night, while he remained vigilant, a guardian of dreams and tales spun beneath the canopy of stars. In the stillness that followed, Lil took a deep breath, letting the night wrap around him like a familiar friend. The compass lay next to him, a silent reminder of the adventure that awaited. Out on the water, the lighthouse beam swept across the waves, marking the way home. For now, he too would let the night settle in, trusting the stories would continue to unfold, guided by the light of the stars in the heart of the sea. As the sun dipped lower into the horizon, casting a warm glow over the harbor village, Philip felt a gentle breeze dance upon his skin. He could hear the distant sound of seagulls calling to one another as they glided overhead, their silhouettes framed against the fading light. The children nestled close, their bodies settling against the fort's time-worn wooden beams, their small hands still clutching the treasures they had collected. "Tell us the story of the lighthouse," one of the girls murmured, her eyes fluttering as the tendrils of sleep began to weave through her thoughts. Liz smiled softly, keeping his voice low and steady as he began. "Once there was a lighthouse keeper named Old Man Jonas, who lived alone on a rocky cliff overlooking the sea. He was a man of few words but vast knowledge, and he cared deeply for those who sailed the treacherous waters below. Every night he would climb to the top of the lighthouse, lighting the great lantern that shone brighter than any star in the sky. Its beam would slice through the darkness, guiding weary sailors home. He glanced at the children, their faces illuminated by the last rays of sunlight, eyes wide with wonder as they listened to the tale unfold. One stormy night, he continued, his voice smooth like the gentle waves, the winds howled, and the sea raged fiercely against the rocks. A ship, lost in the tempest, struggled against the waves that tossed it like a toy. The captain, frightened but resolute, remembered the lighthouse beam piercing through the storm a steadfast promise of safety amid chaos. He steered the ship toward the light, trusting in the keeper's care. Bliss storytelling was accompanied by the faint sound of water lapping against the shore, the rhythm of the ocean providing a soothing backdrop. Jonas, high above the churning sea, noticed the ship battling the storm. With great determination, he ensured that the lantern was fed with oil, its glow unwavering. The captain spotted the light, and with a deep breath, he urged his crew to navigate closer, their hearts buoyed by hope. At this moment, Lynn noticed how the sky deepened into a tapestry of blues and purples, the early stars beginning to twinkle overhead. The world around them felt hushed, as though nature itself was lending an ear to the story. The ship drew closer to the safety of the harbor, but as they approached, they saw that the waves were rising higher, angry and fierce. The captain shouted commands, but the winds howled drowned them out. Just as despair threatened to consume them, the lighthouse beam flickered out a terrible sight. Old Man Jonas had slipped and fallen, and in that moment the night seemed to swallow them whole. The children gasped, their imaginations ignited by the tension in the tale. Yet all was not lost. Lick continued, his voice steadying, for the lighthouse, even in darkness, had a way of showing its true strength. An old friend of Jonah's, a local fisherman named Samuel, had watched from the shore, aware of the light's sudden absence. He rushed through the storm, quickly climbing the cliff to relight the beacon. With a trembling hand, he struck the match, and soon the lantern shone once more, bright and unwavering. The children sighed in relief, their tension easing as they listened intently. Lil let the story pause for a moment, allowing the weight of the adventure to settle. Guided once again by the light, he said, the captain of the ship steered a steady course. The waves thrashed around them, but now their hearts were filled with courage. With each rise and fall of the boat, they felt the warmth of hope pushing them forward, until at last they reached the safety of the harbor. Khalil watched the children's faces, their eyes now heavy, eyelids fluttering like the sails of a ship. As he spoke of triumph and homecoming, he noted the comforting scent of salt and earth mingling around them, a gentle reminder of the world that surrounded this small harbor village. When morning broke, he continued, the storm passed as suddenly as it had arrived, leaving the village peaceful and serene. The ship's crew awoke to find themselves safe, surrounded by the laughter and cheers of the townsfolk who had gathered to celebrate their return. And somewhere atop the cliff, old man Jonas, along with his dear friend Samuel, shared a quiet smile, knowing that together they had kept the light burning, assuring the safe passage of all those who journeyed across the sea. As the last word settled like the first stars appearing overhead, the children leaned against each other, their breaths low and deep, lulled by Eli's storytelling and the surrounding calm. He smiled softly, feeling a familiar tranquility wash over him as he gazed at the horizon, now framed by the rich indigos of night. The lighthouse's beam broke through the darkness, a steady presence in the night, reminding him of the steadfastness that came with caring for both the land and the sea. He felt connected to the town and its heartbeat, the whispers of the ocean echoing the stories of past sailors who had found their way home time and again. With the children now asleep, Bled decided to linger a moment longer, drawn to the shore. He rose carefully, looking back at the fort where dreams danced among the flickers of the stars. As he walked toward the water's edge, he perceived the soft swoosh of waves pulling back into the sea, the air thick with salty mist. The world had quieted, save for the gentle lapping of water and the distant call of a night owl. Bled took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of the sea mingled with the earthly smell of the wet sand. The tide was rising, waves curling with a playful grace, each one reflecting the moonlight that now claimed its reign over the skies. He traced his fingers along the shoreline, searching for shells that had been left behind as the tide receded, each one a unique treasure, much like the stories they had shared this day. His thoughts drifted as the ocean unfolded before him, vast and infinite, filled with mysteries yet to discover. Nearby, a lantern flickered in a narrow window of a cottage, casting a warm glow that spilled onto the cobblestone path. It reminded him of the stories of hearth and home, of gathering around a table filled with food and laughter, safe from the winds outside. He made his way back toward the fort, the stars growing brighter above him, more alive than he had ever seen. Each step stirred memories of childhood adventures of his own, tales he had spun under similar skies, anchored by the light and safety of those he loved. As he returned to the fort, he nestled back against the driftwood, allowing the coolness of the night to soothe him. The children remained undisturbed, their dreams swirling around them like the gentle tides of the sea. While his thoughts began to drift, images of ships and stars intertwining, a subtle sense of mystery threading through the night. He closed his eyes for a moment, listening to the soft, melodic rise and fall of the waves as they danced upon the shore, creating a rhythm that lulled him closer to slumber. He envisioned the lighthouse keeper standing watch, a vigilant figure against the night, ever committed to guiding souls safely home. In this quiet harbor, where each story was a thread weaving through time, Liv felt the deep connection to both past and future. Hours passed, the moon climbing higher, illuminating the sea and its secrets. Liv drifted in and out of dreams, touched by the breath of the ocean, safe in his role as guardian of tales and of those who wandered along the shoreline beneath the glowing stars. Time slowed, enveloping him in a world of wonder and peace, where the sea murmured its story softly, waiting to be heard by anyone willing to listen. And as Alice succumbed to the gentle embrace of sleep, The harbor village settled deeper into its serene night, cradling each soul as they found rest beneath a sky full of shimmering dreams. As the night deepened, the world around the list softened into a peaceful hush. The rhythm of the waves, mingling with the gentle hum of distant crickets, created a lullaby that cradled the village in tranquility. The air was sweet and cool, infused with the briny scent of the sea, and Alif felt a deep connection to the land and the life it cradled. He took a moment to gaze out at the horizon, where the dark waters met the star-speckled sky, the endless expanse of the ocean inviting yet remote. His thoughts turned to the tales he had yet to share, stories about the depths of the sea and the ships that sailed bravely upon it. Each ship, a vessel of dreams, held the hopes of those who sought adventure across the waters. As he leaned against the fort, the wood cool beneath him, he felt the weight of the children's dreams mingling with his own. They had spent the day gathering shells and casting lines into the ocean, their laughter echoing along the shoreline. Now, their soft breathing formed a gentle backdrop, a reminder of the bond they had formed over shared stories and the small treasures they had collected. Billy closed his eyes again, letting his thoughts drift like the clouds above, shifting and reforming, carrying him to places both known and unknown. In his mind's eye, he envisioned a ship sailing through the night, its sails billowing in the wind, each flap whispering secrets of the sea. The captain stood at the helm, staring into the inky void, guided by the stars, steadfast in his quest to uncover hidden treasures beneath the waves. He imagined the ocean's depths teeming with life, the mysteries of what lay beneath, and the stories that waited to be told. Each creature played its part in the grand narrative of the sea, from the shimmering fish darting playfully around coral reefs to the wise old whales that sang their songs to the depths of the ocean. Lev felt a feeling of wonder at the thought of these lives intertwined, as they navigated their world just as he navigated his, on land and in stories. As the clock ticked deeper into the night, a delicate breeze picked up, rustling through the tall grass that framed the fort. It carried the scent of the sea, mingled with the faint echoes of laughter that seemed to linger in the air. With a gentle sigh, Bliss stood and walked back toward the water's edge, feeling the cool sand beneath his feet. The moon hung high, reflecting silver trails upon the water, inviting him to wade deeper into the mysteries of night. He knelt at the shore, watching the waves lap at his ankles, the chill of the water refreshing contrast to the warmth of his thoughts. With each wave, he could feel the pull of the ocean, a gentle tug that invited him closer, as though the sea itself was sharing its stories directly with him. He reached down, fingers brushing against the cool surface, collecting droplets that shimmered like tiny stars before they slipped through his hands. In the distance, the faint silhouette of the lighthouse emerged, its beam slicing through the darkness, a steadfast sentinel watching over the harbor. His gaze lingered on it, the light rotating rhythmically, a reminder of the guidance it offered to sailors braving the night. In that moment, he felt a kinship with the keeper. They both bore the weight of stories and the importance of illuminating the paths for others. As he stood, the soft sound of laughter drifted from the fort, where the children remained, their dreams weaving tales of their own. Blake could almost hear them recounting the stories they had concocted throughout the day, a continuation of their shared adventures. Each child was a storyteller in their own right, their imaginations flourishing under the watchful stars, with dreams filled with the distant lands they would explore and the mysteries they would uncover. He turned his gaze back to the ocean, contemplating the vastness of it all. The sea was an enigma, beautiful and daunting, filled with both challenge and wonder. As the waves rhythmically embraced the shore, he felt a stir within him, an urge to explore, to delve deeper into the tales that lay hidden beneath the surface. With every wave that crashed, he felt the call of adventure, the promise of new stories waiting to unfold. Time slipped by, wrapped in the embrace of night, and the Lil lingered a little longer, allowing the tranquil atmosphere to seep into his bones. The wind danced around him, twirling strands of hair, playfully urging him to move, to seek the stories he had yet to find. He slowly made his way back to the fort, the children still nestled in their dreams, safe and sound in their little world. Back against the driftwood, he settled again, the coolness of the night wrapping around him like a soft blanket. Lil let his eyes drift shut once more, the gentle calls of the night echoing around him. He envisioned each star above as a story yet to be told, each twinkle a promise of adventure and discovery. Lid breathed deeply, his heart attuned to the quiet magic of the harbor, where the land met the sea, and dreams wove their threads through the fabric of night. Moments turned into hours, and as the world slumbered, the moon began its slow descent. The tides shifted, their rhythm subtle yet constant, a lullaby that quieted the bustle of the day. Blair remained at the cusp of sleep and waking, drifting among the tales of the sea and the laughter of children, held gently by the magic of the night. In the stillness of the harbor, mysteries lingered, waiting for morning light to uncover them. The stories of the ocean, the lighthouse keeper, and the adventures yet to sail danced in Ali's mind, a gentle reminder of the beauty and wonder that life held, even in the quiet moments. And just as those thoughts began to blend into dreams, a soft sound broke the serene silence. A distant bell tolled midnight, echoing through the village, a clear and soothing sound that wrapped around Alil like a tender whisper. He stirred slightly, still wrapped in the comfort of the night, where his heart remained anchored to the harbor and its stories yet to be shared. As the moon cast its final glow upon the water, and the village lay wrapped snugly in slumber, Liv found peace in the promise of the dawn that would bring new tales, new adventures, and new treasures hidden beneath the waves. There in the quiet harbor, with the ocean murmuring its endless secrets, Liv closed his eyes, surrendering once more to the gentle embrace of sleep. Each breath he took mingled with the rhythm of the tides, a harmonious dance of life, dreams, and the ever-present stories of the sea, waiting patiently to be told anew with the rising sun, the dawn illuminating the world, revealing the treasures waiting just beneath the surface. The air was cool and crisp, and Ella let the quiet embrace of the night carry him away, his head resting softly against the weathered driftwood, a familiar companion in the stillness. The rhythmic pulse of the waves lapping against the rocks became a lullaby, wrapping around him in a gentle caress as he drifted toward dreams. Within the depths of his slumber, he wandered to far-off shores and hidden caves, where the echoes of laughter blended with the voices of the sea. In his dreams, he met sailors with sun-kissed skin and eyes filled with the deep blue of the ocean. They spoke of their adventures and the treasures they found deep beneath the waves, the mystical creatures that danced in the light of the moon. Blair reveled in these tales, letting them anchor him to the world of imagination while the reality of the harbor cradled him in its arms. As the night progressed, the moon shifted, casting silvery patterns across the water, and the village lay tucked in a blanket of calm. The lighthouse beam swept over the harbor, offering assurance to any who might sail homeward through the darkness. Liv felt its familiar pulse, a source of comfort that stretched beyond time, connecting him to those who had come before and those who would follow. But just as Lib began to sink deeper into his reverie, a sudden rustle disturbed his dreams. He felt the soft touch of the ocean breeze change, a whisper of something new in the air. His eyes fluttered open, and the world around him slowly came back into focus. The stars twinkled above, their distant light unwavering, and he listened intently, wondering what had stirred him from his restful journey. It was then he noticed a figure moving gracefully along the shoreline, silhouetted against the shimmering water. The figure paused, casting glances toward the horizon, and the lift felt a curious stirring within him. He pushed himself to a sitting position, brushing the sand from his clothes. The figure drew closer, the outline sharpening in the soft glow of the moonlight. It was a young woman, her hair flowing like dark seaweed, and her dress billowed gently in the breeze, reminiscent of the waves that danced on the water's edge. "Good evening," Lick called softly, unsure of the interruption but compelled to acknowledge her presence. The woman turned her gaze toward him, her eyes reflecting the light of the moon, bright with an unspoken tale. "I didn't mean to disturb you," she said with a light laugh, her voice like the tinkling of seashells. "I was just drawn to the water the sea has a way of calling to me." Lynn nodded, a smile stretching across his face. "It has that effect on many of us." He gestured to the driftwood beside him, inviting her to join him. "Would you like to rest a moment? The night is quite peaceful." Taking a hesitant step forward, she settled beside him, the cool sand beneath them grounding her presence in the stillness. "I come here often. Especially at night the stories are different, more vivid, I suppose." "Yes," Le agreed, looking out over the water. The sea holds many secrets, waiting for those willing to listen. I'm Aleh, by the way. Anara, she replied, her smile illuminating the shadows of the night. What do you seek by the harbor? Aleh pondered her question, turning it over in his mind as waves lapped rhythmically at the shore. I gather stories from the sea, from the village, from the people who dwell here. Each one is a thread connecting us to something greater than ourselves. Anara's gaze grew thoughtful. I've seen things out there, she said quietly, pointing toward the horizon. Not just fish and ships, but tales of lost treasures, places where the morning light dances on the waves' hidden coasts that hold remnants of the past. Have you visited these places? Malay asked, intrigued by her words, feeling a spark of connection with the dreamer beside him. Only in my mind, Aura admitted, but I hope one day there's a world out there beyond what we see, and I long to uncover it. Malay felt a kindred spirit in her words, a reminder of his own dreams and the adventures that awaited beyond the harbor. The sea is filled with adventures, and every wave carries a story. Perhaps one day you'll find the courage to sail those waters and write your own tales. Inara looked at him, her eyes wide with excitement. Will you come with me? Will you help me find those hidden places? The question resonated within Aleh, stirring something deep inside him. He had always been drawn to the sea, but he had yet to venture far beyond the safety of the harbor. If you seek adventure, then perhaps it is time for both of us to explore those depths. As they exchanged stories, the world around them faded into a gentle hum, the sound of waves and the wind dancing through the grass. Bliss shared the tales of ships that had sailed into the harbor and the whispers of the lighthouse keeper, while Nara spoke of the dreams that carried her to shores unseen. With each story they wove together, the night deepened, casting a spell around them, and time seemed to drift like the tides. The familiar surroundings held new magic in Anara's presence, breathing life into Aliz's dreams of adventure. As the hour passed, the sky began to shift ever so slightly, the black velvet canvas hinting at the first whispers of dawn. The sun would rise soon, bringing a new day filled with promise. Blake glanced at Inara, who sat with her eyes fixed on the horizon, the light of the world barely touching her face. Would you like to remain until dawn? He asked. There's a beauty in watching the sun emerge from the water like a treasure uncovered. She turned to him, her face aglow with anticipation. Yes, let us witness the morning together. The dawn will reveal the secrets hidden in the dark. With a shared understanding, they settled back against the driftwood, their hearts intertwined in the anticipation of what lay ahead. The harbor throbbed gently, the sounds of the night giving way to an awakening rhythm, and Alif felt a surge of joy at the thought of new adventures and tales yet to be told. As the stars began to fade, replaced by the soft blush of the horizon, Alif stole a glance at Inara, who now wore a look of serene peace, her eyes reflecting the light of a new beginning. Every dawn brings new stories, he mused. What tales do you think the day will hold for us? Anara smiled, a bright flash of excitement lighting her features. Perhaps we will find the lighthouse keeper's secrets, or meet sailors who hold the knowledge of the sea's heart. With each moment that passed, the anticipation of the day built. Liv found his own heart swelling with hope and possibility, knowing that with Inara by his side, adventures awaited them just beyond the horizon. As daylight slowly crept into the sky, a soft glow painted the edges of the clouds, the world transforming before their eyes. Liv felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the harbor, for the stories it had shared, and for the unexpected companion at his side. The first rays of sun broke over the horizon, spilling golden light into the cove, touching the water and igniting it into a dance of shimmering colors. The harbor came alive, the call of gulls filling the air and the soft rustle of the breeze carrying the scent of salt and possibility. I can feel it, Liz said, his heart racing with excitement. Today is the day for new beginnings. Yes, Inara agreed, her gaze steady on the horizon, now painted with the warm hues of dawn. Today, we become part of the stories that have yet to be written. Together, they rose from the driftwood, the warmth of the sun wrapping around them like an embrace, and as they stood at the edge of the harbor, Le felt a spark of adventure ignite within. With the promise of exploration and the thrill of mystery ahead, Le and Inar took their first step forward into the light of a new day, ready to uncover the hidden treasures that lay just beneath the waves, where stories awaited to be uncovered and dreams were waiting to take flight. Le and Inar walked side by side along the cobbled path that wound through the village, each step echoing softly against the stones while the sunlight warmed their skin. Colorful cottages lined the way, their shutters flung open to greet the new day. Flowers spilled from window boxes, their vibrant hues a feast for the eyes, and the air thrummed with the gentle clamor of village life waking around them. The smell of baking bread wafted from the bakery, mingling with the salty breeze from the harbor. And our paused to take it in, a smile brightening her face. The baker must be up early today, she commented, her voice light and melodic. Helena nodded. We should stop by later. The thought of warm bread made his stomach rumble, and he felt a feeling of adventure rise within him, not just from the harbor's promise, but from the simple joys of the village waking to life. As they continued toward the docks, they could hear the rhythmic sounds of fishermen preparing their boats, ropes creaking against the masts, the soft splash of water as nets were cast. Belev felt a kinship with the sailors, their lives intertwined with the sea, each one a storyteller in his own right. Let's see if we can find someone to share their tales with us, he suggested, glancing at Inar, who looked back at him with a twinkle of mischief in her eyes. The docks were bustling, boats bobbing gently in the water under the newly risen sun. The harbor seemed to sing, a symphony played by the waves and the calls of the birds spiraling overhead. Bliss spotted an older man with silver hair, his weathered hands skillfully mending a net. He approached him with Inar at his side, a smile breaking on his face. "Good morning, sir," Maleh said, his voice cheerful. "I'm Maleh, and this is Inar. We're looking to hear some tales of the sea. Would you share some with us?" The man raised his gaze, his eyes a deep blue, reflecting the ocean itself. He chuckled, a gravelly sound like rock shifting beneath water. "Ah, young ones eager for stories, you've come to the right place." He set aside the net and leaned against the side of the boat, motioning for Ali and Inar to join him. The sea has a way of revealing itself to those who listen. It's where I've learned my greatest truths. Ali moved closer, his heart beating in anticipation. What kind of truths? The old sailor squinted at the horizon, his expression thoughtful. Every wave has a story. I remember one night, a storm like no other, winds howling like a banshee. We lost our way, tossed about like driftwood. But in the thick of it, through the fear, there was a glimmer of light in the distance, guiding us home. That light was the lighthouse on the cliffs, a beacon of hope against the darkness. Anara leaned in, her eyes wide with fascination. Was it the same lighthouse that stands over the cove? The one with the red roof? "Aye," the sailor replied, his gaze steady. "That lighthouse has seen many ships come and go, some returning, others lost to the depths. The keeper there holds stories of his own, secrets carved into the rocks by the hands of the sea." Bele felt a whisper of excitement at the mention of the lighthouse keeper. "Do you think he'd be willing to share his stories with us?" "Depends on how you approach him," the sailor said, a glint of mischief in his eye. "He's a reclusive one, prefers the company of the waves. But perhaps if you offered some warmth, in the form of fresh bread or a kind heart, you might earn his trust." Anara nodded thoughtfully. "Then we must find that bread before we visit him." The sailor chuckled again, and Alif felt the warmth of camaraderie grow between them. "You two are bound for great adventures, I can tell. The sea is a fickle friend, but she rewards those who tread her waters with respect." With their hearts buoyed by the sailors' tales, Blit and Inara exchanged glances, their spirits entwined in a shared mission. "Thank you for your stories," Blit said, gratitude pouring from his words. "We'll be sure to return with tales of our own." The old sailor waved them off, his eyes twinkling like the waves. "May the tides be kind to you." As they walked back toward the village, the scent of fresh bread lingered in the air, calling to them like an old friend. The sun climbed higher, casting a golden light that danced on the water, and Olivia felt as though the day was unfolding like a precious gift. They reached the bakery, its exterior quaint and inviting. The baker, a stout woman with flour-dusted hands and a cheerful smile, greeted them warmly. "What can I get for you, young adventurers?" "2 loaves, please," Blair requested, glancing at Inara, who nodded in agreement. "Just out of the oven," she replied, wrapping the warm loaves in paper. The aroma enveloped them, and Alec could hardly contain his excitement. He paid her with a few coins, feeling the weight of the bread in his hands, the warmth a promise of comfort and satisfaction. "Thank you," Anar said, her voice bright, and the baker waved them off with a smile. With loaves in hand, they set off toward the path leading to the lighthouse. The anticipation of what lay ahead wrapped around them, and Olive felt the thrill of exploration surge in his chest. The path wound upward, flanked by wildflowers and grasses swaying in the gentle breeze. Each step brought them closer to the rocky cliffs overlooking the sea, the sound of waves crashing harmonizing with their footsteps. Anar touched the petals of a flower, her fingers brushing against its delicate surface. "Look at how vibrant they are," she said, her eyes lighting up with awe. "Like the stories we'll gather today," Blair replied, the notion sparking his imagination. "Each one colorful and full of life." When they finally reached the lighthouse, its tall structure stood proud against the sky, the red roof glinting in the sunlight. A sturdy door, painted a weathered green, invited their approach. Let hesitated for a moment, glancing at Inara. "Do you think he'll be willing to talk to us?" She smiled reassuringly. "We'll never know unless we try. Besides, we come bearing bread." Taking a steadying breath, Le knocked gently on the door. They heard the soft echo of footsteps behind it, and after a moment, the door creaked open to reveal a man of few words, his beard flecked with gray and eyes bright and penetrating. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice a deep murmur. "We're travelers from the village," Bliss said, holding up the bread. "We wanted to hear some tales from the sea, if you'd share them with us." The lighthouse keeper's expression softened slightly, curiosity glinting in his gaze. "You brought bread, you say? Come in, then." With an air of cautious excitement, Palit and Anar stepped over the threshold into the cozy warmth of the lighthouse. The interior was filled with the scent of salt and the faint crackle of old wood. Light streamed in from the tall windows, illuminating the space with a gentle glow. The keeper motioned for them to sit at a small table in the corner where an oil lamp flickered. As they settled in, he placed the bread between them, a welcoming gesture. "Stories are best shared over good food," he said, leaning back in his chair. "I've had my share of restless nights, watching the sea and listening to her secrets. What would you like to know?" Hillel leaned forward, the weight of anticipation hanging in the air. "What have you seen from this lighthouse? What secrets does the sea hold?" The keeper's gaze drifted to the window, watching the waves crash against the rocks below. "The sea is alive. My friend, she brings life and takes it away, holds treasures and terrors alike. Each ship that sails her is a story in motion." And Ara laced her fingers together, intrigued. "Have you ever had to guide a lost ship home?" "Many times," he replied, his voice tinged with nostalgia. "There was one storm, years ago, when a ship's lantern went dark. The crew was lost, disoriented, but the lighthouse stood firm, a beacon in the tempest. I shone the light through the storm, and they found their way back. The sea can be unforgiving, but there's always a chance for redemption." Lev felt the weight of the tale settle within him, resonating with the excitement and respect that thrummed in his heart. "Do you meet many travelers here?" The keeper chuckled softly. "Not often. Most are afraid to venture up these cliffs. They think the sea is a fickle mistress. But she is also a teacher for those willing to learn. For us, she is a guide," Eliz said, glancing at Inara, who nodded in agreement. "We're seeking our own stories to tell, and we want to weave them into the fabric of the village." The lighthouse keeper regarded them for a long moment, an amused smile creeping onto his face. "Well, you've taken your first step toward that goal. Just be wary, for the sea can charm and ensnare." As they shared the bread, The warmth of the lighthouse enveloped them, and Nila felt the bond of companionship grow deeper. The keeper spoke with an ease that made the time slip away, tales of his life entwined with the pulse of the ocean. Hours passed. The sun started to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows through the windows. With each story, Le and Inar found themselves captivated, wrapped in the rich colors of the keeper's words. They explored tales of sunken ships and hidden coves, of storms that swept away dreams and the quiet resilience of those who returned to the sea. With the last remnants of daylight fading, the keeper leaned forward, his eyes glinting with a secret. At dusk, the sea reveals its treasures, but only to those who ask the right questions. What do you mean? Anara asked, her curiosity piqued. Go to the shore at twilight. Listen closely to the waves. They murmur secrets when the sun kisses the horizon. You may find something to guide your tales in the depths, he advised, his voice both mysterious and inviting. Alef felt a thrill run through him. The day had woven stories into his heart, and the promise of more awaited at twilight. As they rose to leave, the keeper clasped his hands together. Thank you for the company and the bread. The sea holds many mysteries, and I can see she has chosen you to discover them. With a firm handshake and promises to return, Le and Anar stepped back into the cool evening air, the sky painted in swirls of purple and gold. They walked in silence for a moment, the weight of the day mingling with the excitement of the evening ahead. Should we head to the shore? Le suggested, his heart quickening at the prospect of uncovering more mysteries. Yes, Anar replied with a feeling of determination. I can feel the pull of the sea already. They hurried down the path, anticipation bubbling between them, the sounds of the waves growing louder. As they reached the water's edge, Liv felt a rush of cool air, the scent of salt invigorating his senses, and the world around them transformed into shades of twilight. The sun dipped lower, casting a golden path upon the waves, and Liv stood still, breathing in the beauty of the moment. Look, Anar called, her voice a blend of wonder and excitement. The sea sparkles like diamonds. Lev followed her gaze, his heart fluttering at the sight. The waves lapped gently at the shore, and in the fading light, he felt as though the ocean was alive, teasing them with hints of what lay beyond the horizon. As they stepped closer to the water, the soft whispers of the waves wrapped around them, secrets waiting to be uncovered. In that moment, the day felt infinite, full of promise and stories yet to be told. Belay turned to Inara, who stood beside him, her eyes glittering with the reflected light of the sea. We're part of this story now, aren't we? She nodded, her smile radiant. Just as the sea gives, we shall take our chance to learn. Together, with the twilight deepening around them and the world falling into a gentle hush, they listened as the ocean spoke, eager to embrace the hidden treasures that awaited them. In the quiet of the harbor, surrounded by the whispers of the waves, Liv felt the gentle pull of adventure urging them to dive deeper into the unknown, where stories beckoned like the stars emerging in the darkening sky. The evening air carried a soothing chill as Liv and Inar stood at the water's edge, the horizon now a blend of deep blues and soft violets. The waves murmured against the shore in a rhythmic dance, each gentle lap weaving a new layer of calm over their hearts. Blake could feel a feeling of unity with the sea, as though it understood their longing for discovery and was welcoming them into its embrace. I wonder what secrets lie beneath those waves, and our mused, her gaze fixed on the undulating water. The last rays of sun sparkled just above the horizon, casting a warm glow that seemed to cradle them in a moment of serenity. Perhaps we'll find out tonight, Les said, unable to suppress a smile full of promise. There was a quiet thrill in his heart, an eager anticipation of the stories waiting to unveil themselves. They stepped along the shoreline, the damp sand cool beneath their feet, feeling the ocean's presence grow stronger with each step. The twilight deepened, the stars beginning to blink awake overhead like watchful eyes, each one a witness to the night's unfolding mystery. Philip paused for a moment, looking up at the vast canvas of the night sky, the Milky Way stretching across it like a shimmering river. Look, he pointed, the stars are coming out. Do you think they know the secrets of the sea? Anara chuckled softly, tilting her head back. eyes alight with curiosity. Maybe they do, or perhaps they are the storytellers themselves, sharing tales with the tide. With those words, they drew closer to a rocky outcrop that jutted into the water, cloaked in shadow yet emanating an inviting aura. It felt like the perfect place to sit and see what the night might reveal. They climbed over the smooth stones, the sound of the ocean growing louder, a symphony of splashes and sighs. Finally reaching a flat stone large enough to sit upon, Lit and Inara settled down, their legs dangling over the edge, the cool waves lapping at the rocks below. As the darkness deepened, the first slivers of the moon emerged, casting a silver sheen across the surface of the water. Lit felt a feeling of magic in the air, as though the very fabric of the night held stories waiting to be told. What do you think we should ask the sea? He pondered aloud. Anara thought for a moment, her brow furrowing in concentration. How about how it keeps its treasures hidden? Her voice was soft, almost reverential, as though she were speaking a secret she wished to share only with the ocean. Lit nodded, feeling the weight of her words. And where those treasures might be, he added, his eyes trained on the shimmering surface, willing it to impart its knowledge. For a few moments, they watched in silence, the only sound the gentle crash of waves against the shore. The moon climbed higher, spilling its light across the surface, illuminating the dark water in ethereal brilliance. Blake could swear he saw shapes moving beneath the surface, fleeting shadows that vanished as quickly as they appeared. Did you see that? He whispered, excitement lacing his words. Anara leaned closer, her eyes wide. What was it? Something big? I'm not sure, Valir replied, his heart racing. The sea is full of life, after all. Perhaps it's just a fish or something else entirely. Before they could ponder further, a gentle breeze swept through, stirring the air and causing the waves to shimmer even more brightly. In that moment, Palit felt a sudden urge to dip his fingers into the cool water, a yearning to connect with whatever mysteries lay beneath. Maybe the sea has a message for us, he suggested, glancing at Inara. Should we ask it again? She replied, her voice tinged with excitement. Palit nodded, and together they leaned closer over the edge, the salty spray kissing their faces. Elsie, he called softly, we seek your treasures and would like to know your secrets. What stories do you hold? As if responding to their call, the water before them glimmered, and something began to rise to the surface. It was not an overwhelming wave, but rather a gentle swell, as though the tide itself had answered their question. A small object bobbed closer, catching the moonlight, sparkling like silver. Billy's heart raced with disbelief and wonder. What is that? Anara breathed, her eyes wide with awe. In an instant, it reached the rocky edge, and the lid swiftly reached down to grasp it. It was a delicate conch shell, its spiral form a beautiful blend of soft pink and creamy white. The shell felt warm in his hand, somehow alive, its smooth surface sending a shiver of delight through him. Do you think it's a sign? He asked, turning the shell over gently, captivated by its beauty. Anara leaned closer, her breath held in anticipation. What if it holds the voice of the sea within it? Maybe we can hear the stories it has to tell. Blair raised the conch to his ear and closed his eyes, the world around him fading as he focused solely on the soft sound of the ocean contained within. It was a rhythmic whisper, like the heartbeat of the sea itself, pulsing steadily in his grasp. He could almost imagine the tales spun by waves and tides, ghosts of sailors long past sharing laughter and songs beneath the stars. Can you hear it? Anar asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Yes, he replied, feeling something beyond the simple echoes of the ocean, as though the sound was wrapping around his thoughts, painting vivid pictures in his mind. The more he listened, the more stories began to unfold, sailors navigating treacherous storms, children playing on sunlit shores, and lovers standing by the sea's edge, whispering promises under the stars. Billet opened his eyes and turned to Anara, excitement bubbling within him. There's so much history in this shell, so much longing, he said, passing it to her. I think we found a treasure. Anara took the conch, cradling it delicately in her hands. She brought it to her ear, her expression shifting to one of deep contemplation, as though she were conversing with the sea itself. Their surroundings fell away once more, and the moment stretched into timelessness, the world shrinking until it was just the two of them, the shell, and the voice of the ocean. "I can hear them," she murmured, her voice barely audible. "The stories of the sea, it's like they are calling to us." With a soft smile, Below watched Enara, feeling a warmth spread through him at the sight of her enthralled expression. This was more than they had hoped for, the connection with the sea deepening in ways he never imagined. There, sitting together on the rocks under the watchful gaze of the stars, they felt anchored in that moment a bond forged not just between themselves, but with the very essence of the sea. Eventually, Enara lowered the shell, her eyes shimmering with wonder. "I think we both have a small piece of the ocean now," she said, "and it will guide us." Lynn nodded, a feeling of calm enveloping him. "We'll treasure it always." The waves continued to dance around them, their sounds a constant reminder of the evening's magic. Time slipped away like the tide, and they found themselves sharing stories, both of the sea and their own dreams, each tale wrapped in the glow of the rising moon. As the hours drifted by, they spoke of adventures they wished to embark upon, of journeys across the water and mysteries yet to be discovered. Liv felt a feeling of purpose filling him, as though the sea had not only revealed a treasure in the conch shell, but had also awakened a yearning for their own stories to unfold. Eventually, the moon hung high in the sky, casting a silver glow over the still surface of the water. As they finally sat back in comfortable silence, Lid took a deep breath, the salty breeze filling his lungs and refreshing his spirit. The night had grown quiet, the sounds of the shore now a soft lullaby lulling him into contemplation. "Do you think we should stay out here longer?" Anara asked, her voice a gentle murmur, as though afraid to disturb the stillness. Lid turned his gaze toward the horizon, noticing how the waves glittered even under the moonlight, endlessly whispering their secrets. "I think we should, at least for a little while longer," he replied, feeling the enchantment of the night wrap around them like a gentle blanket. They settled back against the cool rock, watching the stars twinkle above them, each one a reminder of the infinite possibilities waiting in the world. Balea felt his eyelids grow heavy, his thoughts drifting as he listened to the sea's soft song. In the embrace of the night, surrounded by the mysteries of the ocean and the companionship of Enara, he closed his eyes, letting the gentle sounds of the waves lull him deeper into his thoughts, cradling him softly into a world of dreams yet to come. After a while, as the moon continued its journey across the sky, Leo woke with a start, the stars still bright and the tide flowing gracefully beneath them. The world around him was still, a hushed calm enveloping the harbor. Anar still rested beside him, the conch shell resting like a guardian on the stone between them. He looked out over the water, now reflecting the moon and stars like a polished mirror. A soft glow illuminated the shoreline, and in that quiet hour, Philip felt an undeniable sense of peace settle in his heart. "Maybe it's not just the sea that holds treasures," he whispered to the night. "Maybe it's the moments we share." With that thought lingering in the air, he settled back against the cool stone again, letting the soothing sound of the waves wash over him. The mysteries of the sea, the conch shell's whispers, and the stars above they all formed a gentle reminder that the night was theirs, a time for dreams, stories, and endless possibilities. And there, beneath the vast expanse of twinkling stars, Blade drifted back into a tranquil sleep, the good company of the sea and the friends gathered around him guarding his dreams, weaving new tales from the mysteries waiting just beyond the horizon. The cool earth felt solid beneath Liz' bare feet as he and Inara strolled along the shoreline, the rhythm of the waves harmonizing with their thoughts. The dark sea cascaded with silver highlights from the moon, making the water look like a vast expanse of gemstones. With every gentle crash of the surf against the rocks, Blake could taste the salt on his lips, a reminder of the ocean's vastness and the secrets it held. As they walked, Anar picked up a small, smooth stone, its surface glistening in the moonlight. She turned it over in her hand, inspecting its curves and colors. "Look at this one. Isn't it beautiful?" He turned to see the stone, its deep green flecked with hints of blue. "It's like a piece of the sea itself," he replied, his voice filled with wonder. Something about the night stirred a feeling of exploration within him, a call to uncover what lay hidden just beyond the shallow waters. "Let's visit the old pier," he suggested, pointing toward the silhouette of the structure jutting out into the sea. And Ara nodded, her eyes bright with enthusiasm as they made their way toward the wooden structure, its weathered planks creaking softly under their weight. The pier had once been a thriving hub for fishing boats and merchants, but now stood quiet, a relic of a busy past. At the end of the pier, the ocean spread wide beneath them, dark and mysterious, illuminated only by the moon's gentle touch. As they stood there, the breeze danced around them, carrying the faintest scent of brine and flora. Will peered down into the water, the moonlight creating shimmering pathways that seemed to beckon him closer. "What do you think lies down there?" he mused, leaning over the edge. "Maybe fish, or even an old shipwreck," Anara replied, excitement bubbling in her voice. "Some say there are treasures waiting to be discovered." "Perhaps we'll find something tomorrow," he agreed, his imagination racing. "The scavengers of the sea have certainly left their mark." They remained at the end of the pier for a while, letting the peace of the night wash over them, sitting side by side on the edge, their legs swinging above the water. Philip felt a feeling of belonging, with Anar by his side and the sea below, whispering tales of long-forgotten times. He closed his eyes, listening to the quiet lapping of the waves, each small splash a gentle reminder of nature's presence. "Do you hear that?" Anara's voice broke the stillness, her eyes wide with curiosity. Lit opened his eyes, straining to catch a sound beneath the breeze. It was a faint melody, a sweet, almost haunting tune drifting in from the distance. "What is that?" He wondered aloud, the intrigue sparking within him as he looked back out to sea. "Maybe it's the sirens," Anara joked lightly, though a part of her seemed to entertain the thought. "Or perhaps fishermen singing old tales of the ocean." Smiling, he shook his head. "It's probably just the wind," he responded, but the sound tugged at an adventurous spirit within him, urging him to investigate further. "Shall we follow it?" With an eager nod from Inara, they rose from their resting place and carefully made their way back toward the rocky outcrop, the sound guiding them like a lighthouse beat. They moved away from the pier, but soon discovered that the melody grew softer as they traveled along the shore. "Maybe it's coming from further down," Anar suggested, pointing to a small cove hidden within the cliffs. "Let's check there." The cove appeared like a secret haven tucked away from the world, the entrance framed by towering rocks that seemed to whisper tales of old. As they stepped inside, the sound swirled around them, now clearly resonating within the stone walls, an echo of the night's mysteries. In the heart of the cove, a small pool shimmered, illuminated by the moonlight, creating a brilliant reflection that danced like stars on the water's surface. Sitting on the rocks beside the pool, they marveled at the sight, their breaths catching at its beauty. The melody seemed to come from the water itself, pulsing slowly in tune with the gentle waves that embraced the edges. "What if the pool is enchanted?" Elias speculated, his eyes wide with wonder. "Like a treasure trove filled with stories." "Or memories," and Anara added, her voice soft. "Maybe it's a place where wishes come true." They sat on the cool stone, entranced by the pool's allure, the moonlight shimmering across the surface like silver dust. They couldn't shake the feeling that something extraordinary lingered just beneath the calm waters, and perhaps it was their own dreams reflected back at them. As they gazed into the depths, shadows twisted and turned, forming shapes that evoked stories long since forgotten. Anara shared a thought, her voice barely above a breath. "What if we each tossed a stone and made a wish?" "Why not?" he replied, the spark of youth igniting a feeling of camaraderie in his heart. They rummaged through the stones at the edge of the cove, each selecting a smooth, polished pebble that felt just right in their palms. Without saying a word, they counted to 3, then tossed their stones into the water simultaneously, watching as they disappeared beneath the surface. The ripples spread outward, sending shimmering rings through the moonlit pool. "Did you make a wish?" Anara asked, her gaze fixed on the ripples, curiosity dancing in her eyes. "I did," Blair replied, feeling a warmth flood his chest. "I wished for adventure, for more nights like this." A smile broke across Inara's face. "And I wish for courage," she said, her thoughts lingering in the air. "Courage to uncover the sea's mysteries." Together, they sat in hushed reverie, the melody continuing to drift around them, weaving tales that entwined their own aspirations. The night stretched on, the moon hanging above like a sentinel watching over their dreams. As the breeze began to shift ever so slightly, signaling the approach of dawn, the first hints of the sun's light poured slowly into the sky, a delicate gradient of soft hue shimmering on the horizon. The coolness of the night started to fade, giving way to warmth and promise. "Should we head back?" Lim murmured, not wanting the magic of the night to dissipate, but knowing that the day ahead would hold its own enchantments. Anara nodded reluctantly but with a feeling of understanding. "Yes, but let's remember this moment." They rose together, hearts still light with the prospect of tomorrow's adventures, and retraced their steps back along the rocky shore. The air around them sparkled with possibility, each step resonating with the heartbeat of the sea. As they reached the edge of the village, the first rays of sunlight began to paint the world in soft pastels, casting a gentle glow over the cottages and the harbor. The sea, now reflecting the blush of dawn, seemed to sing a different song, one of renewal and promise. With the day ahead stretching out before them, a canvas yet to be painted, Alif felt a warmth unfurl in his chest. Each passing moment offered a new story waiting to unfold, the tide of time rising with the sun. "Tomorrow we'll explore deeper," Alif said, confidence pooling within him. "There are treasures waiting just beyond the horizon." "Yes," Anara replied, the joy in her voice evident. "And I can't wait to see what we find." Side by side, they turned back to take one last look at the sea, now shimmering brightly in the morning light, a living testament to their dreams and adventures waiting on the horizon. Together, they walked into the village, the world alive with possibilities, ready to fill the day with new discoveries and the gentle magic of their quiet harbor. As Alit and Inara continued along the shoreline, the cool grains of sand felt soothing against their bare feet. The rhythmic sound of the surf played a calming tune, echoing quietly along the harbor's edge. Overhead, the vast expanse of the night sky was adorned with twinkling stars, each a tiny beacon of light, adding to the magic of their evening. Alit picked up a small, smooth stone that glimmered under the moonlight. He turned it over in his hand, its cool surface grounding him in the present moment. "Look at this," he said softly, holding it out to Inara. "It's like the sea captured a piece of the sky." Inara leaned in closer, her eyes sparkling with delight as she examined the stone. "It's beautiful," she said, her voice infused with wonder. "We should keep it as a reminder of tonight." With the stone safely tucked into a pocket, they continued walking, their footsteps leaving faint imprints in the damp sand. The air was filled with the scent of salt, and distant wildflowers carried on the breeze, a fragrance both invigorating and soothing at once. "Do you remember the tales the keeper told us?" Le asked, recalling the stories that had unfolded in the warm glow of the lanterns earlier that evening at the harbor, about the treasures lost at sea. Anara nodded, her eyes reflective. "He spoke of a shipwreck near the cove. It sank under mysterious circumstances, and no one knows what became of its cargo. They say it still lies buried beneath the waves." Liz' curiosity piqued at the mention of the shipwreck. "Do you think we could find it?" he asked. The heartbeat of adventure thrummed through him, encouraging him to explore the depths beyond the shore. "Maybe," Anara replied thoughtfully, "but we would need to be careful. The sea holds much history, and not all of it is meant to be uncovered." They paused for a moment, staring out at the dark expanse of water where the moonlight danced upon the surface. Willie could feel the allure of the deep, a pull that tugged at his very being. A yearning for discovery ignited within him, igniting every corner of his mind. "What if we gather supplies tomorrow and venture out farther?" he suggested, his voice filled with excitement. The thought of setting sail, leaving the safety of the village behind, thrilled him. Inara turned to him, a thoughtful expression on her face. "We must be wise, for the sea can be unpredictable. But the idea is enchanting." With a newfound determination, They continued down the shoreline without rushing, savoring the tranquility of the moment. Each wave that lapped against their feet carried with it the promise of the adventures that awaited them. After a while, they found a small clearing among the rocks where they could sit and gaze at the vast ocean. The rhythmic rise and fall of the water created a comforting backdrop, its power both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Bilal looked out at the horizon, where the dark expanse met the night sky, and let his thoughts wander. What if the shipwreck holds treasure beyond our wildest dreams? He mused aloud, the flicker of possibility igniting his imagination. What if there are ancient maps or artifacts? Anara laughed softly, a light sound that danced through the air. Or maybe it's just a pile of old planks and rusty anchors, she teased gently. Perhaps, he replied, a grin spreading across his face. But isn't it the thrill of the search that matters? To know that something new awaits us? As they settled into a comfortable silence, the stars twinkled playfully above them. Lit let his thoughts drift, imagining the sea's mysteries, its hidden treasures lying in wait beneath the waves. He imagined himself as a sailor, brave enough to face the unknown. After a while, Inara broke the silence. You know, we could explore the cove with the keeper and learn more about the shipwreck. Lit nodded, thrilled by her suggestion. Their shared curiosity and dreams felt like a bond that deepened with every passing moment. Let's ask him tomorrow, then, he agreed, his heart full of excitement for what lay ahead. They lingered there a little longer, watching the waves paint patterns in the sand and enjoying the cool, salty air. The village lay quietly behind them, drowsy in the embrace of the night. A few lanterns flickered from the homes, tiny lights that mirrored the stars above. Both feeling the pull of fatigue, they slowly rose to return to the village. They walked slowly, savoring the warmth of the stones beneath their feet and the tranquil sounds of the sea as they journeyed back home. As they stepped onto the cobbled path leading to the village, Liz's thoughts turned to the day ahead. The thought of adventure filled him with exhilaration, and he couldn't help but smile at the prospect of what tomorrow might hold. Back in the village, the comforting silence wrapped around them like a familiar blanket. The home stood serene, their windows reflecting the silver light of the moon, a calming presence amidst the stillness. Anar stopped outside her cottage, looking up at the sky one last time. I'll see you at dawn? She asked, her voice soft and hopeful. Yes, at dawn, Lit confirmed, a smile lingering on his lips. He felt a surge of excitement as they parted ways, hearts intertwined in the thrill of possibility. With a gentle wave, Lit turned towards his own home, moving with a feeling of purpose. He quietly stepped inside, careful not to disturb anyone as he made his way to his small bedroom. The familiar scent of wood and the faint echo of the sea greeted him. He took a moment to gaze out of the window at the world outside. The moon hung high above, casting a silver glow over the rooftops, and the soft lapping of waves filled the air, a reminder of the adventure that awaited them come morning. Lit changed into his night clothes, feeling the warmth of the blankets envelop him as he nestled into bed. He closed his eyes, allowing the day's excitement to wash over him in gentle waves. The soft rhythm of the sea lulled him into a state of tranquility, and he let his thoughts drift to the journey ahead, the mysteries they would explore, and the stories waiting to awaken on the morrow. In the quiet of the night, Lit felt a deep appreciation for the bond he shared with Inara and for the adventures the sea promised. He held on to the conch shell, safe on his bedside table, a reminder of the depths yet to be uncovered. As sleep slowly embraced him, he surrendered to the gentle allure of dreams, ready to meet the dawn and all the secrets waiting just beyond the horizon. The night continued its soft serenade, each wave a promise of tomorrow's adventure, as the lid drifted further into peaceful slumber, cradled by the rhythm of the harbor. Midnight melted into the early hours, and the house around the Lear remained a haven of peace. The faint noise of waves provided a soothing backdrop, gently nudging him deeper into the realm of dreams. Wrapped in the familiar embrace of his blankets, he felt secure and safe, surrounded by the quiet comfort of his small room. Outside, the moon hovered like a sentinel over the village, illuminating the cobblestones and casting long shadows from the clustered homes. A cool breeze drifted through the window, carrying with it the salty tang of the sea, mingling with the subtle scents of the earth and wood. Liz's mind wandered through the corridors of sleep, where curiosity blended seamlessly with the soft call of adventure. In this quiet hour, memories of the past day danced through his mind. He thought of Inara and her laughter, the way it sparked like the flickering lanterns lining the paths, casting warmth into the cool night. Their shared reveries by the shore lingered, intertwined with the rhythm of the waves. The excitement of uncovering the tales hidden beneath the tides filled him with a gentle thrill. As the hours slipped by, Liz sank deeper into a dream. He wandered along a shoreline that felt familiar yet enchanted. The sea sparkled under a sun that seemed to rise without haste, its light playing upon the water like scattered diamonds. He could hear the distant calls of seabirds, their songs weaving into the whisper of the breeze. In this dreamscape, he found himself exploring the cove he and Anar had spoken of. The cliffs towered majestically, their rugged faces softened by patches of green clinging to the rocks. As he ventured closer, the cove opened up like a secret world. The soft sigh of the waves against the shore beckoned him to draw nearer, and Alif felt the exhilarating pull of discovery. Suddenly, he noticed something glinting beneath the surface of the water. Curiosity ignited within him, pulling him closer still. The clarity of the water allowed him to see shapes just below the surface, the remnants of the shipwreck they had talked about. Liz's heart raced as he imagined the stories woven into each fragment, the adventures it had endured through storms and tides. In the dream, he stepped into the cool embrace of the water, feeling the soft pull of the current inviting him to explore. With every step forward, the sea seemed to welcome him, as though it sensed his longing to uncover its buried tales. Blair reached down, fingers brushing the smooth, weathered wood of what he now recognized as part of the ship. An overwhelming sense of wonder filled him, a connection to those who had sailed before, carrying dreams and hopes across the vast ocean. Time flowed differently in the dream, allowing him to delve deep into the mysteries of the wreck. He pictured himself as an intrepid explorer, unearthing artifacts that told stories of distant lands and sailors' hearts, while the sun above continued its slow ascent, casting a warm golden light over the cove. Suddenly, a soft voice echoed around him, familiar and comforting, pulling him back from the dream's depths. Le, it called gently, like the breeze that danced through the sea grass. His heart quickened as he recognized Inara's voice, filled with excitement and wonder. He turned towards the sound, and there she was, standing at the water's edge, her hair catching the light as she smiled at him. Her presence felt like a warm anchor in the dream, a reminder of the adventures that awaited them when the sun fully claimed the sky. Look, she gestured, pointing toward the water where something sparkled. There's so much to discover here. Lev felt a rush of joy at the sight of her, his companion in this newfound world. Together, they stepped into the water, the coolness brushing against their legs, vibrant and alive. With each wave that lapped at their ankles, Lev felt an electric anticipation for the day ahead. But as dreams often fade, so too did this one, drifting like the tide. The sound of the waves gradually transformed, shifting from the vivid resonance of exploration to the soft murmur of the harbor at night. Bliss stirred, awakening to the gentle glow of morning light seeping through his window. The dream hung in his mind, a fleeting memory of adventure infused with warmth. He blinked slowly, savoring the tranquility of the moment, allowing the sensations of the dream to linger before turning to face the day. The village breathed in the early hours, the soft rustling of leaves mingling with the distant calls of fishermen preparing for the day's journey on the water. Bliss stretched, feeling the chill of the morning air tickle his skin as he unfolded himself from the blankets. He rose, pulling on his clothes with eager anticipation. The excitement pulsed through him as he recalled the plans with Inara. A day filled with exploration awaited. He padded softly to the window, peeking outside to see golden rays illuminating the village with a gentle warmth. Children laughed as they darted in and out of the narrow lanes, their joyful shouts carrying on the breeze. He smiled, feeling a kinship with their exuberance. The day was alive with promise. After a quick breakfast, Liz stepped outside. The cool air greeted him, refreshing and invigorating. He took a moment to breathe deeply, filling his lungs with the scent of the sea, salty and full of life. As he walked through the village, his heart beat in rhythm with the tide, an undercurrent of excitement urging him forward. He made his way to the harbor, where colorful boats bobbed gently on the water's surface, their hulls gleaming under the sun. Fishermen were already busy preparing their nets, laughter and chatter mingling with the soft sounds of waves lapping against the docks. Billy moved toward the spot where he had promised to meet Inara. As he approached, he spotted her standing near the edge of the docks, a silhouette framed against the shimmering water. She turned at the sound of his footsteps, her face lighting up with a smile that spread warmth through Eliz's chest. "Good morning," she called, her voice bright and melodic. "Morning," he replied, feeling the thrill of shared adventure already resonating between them. "I can't wait to see the cove," she said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "I've been thinking about it all night." Pellegrin nodded, and felt a rush of satisfaction that they were embarking on this journey together. There was something electrifying about shared dreams, especially when they were set against the backdrop of the vast, mysterious sea. They boarded a small rowboat, one of the fishermen's vessels. Billet took the oars, while Inara sat beside him, her gaze focused on the horizon. As they glided away from the harbor, the village began to recede, painted in hues of sunrise, a picture of warmth and familiarity left behind. The water swayed gently beneath them, soft ripples reflecting the sun's golden light as they moved toward the cove. Inara narrated her thoughts, discussing what they might find, her curiosity infectious as it danced between them. Billet found himself enchanted by her passion, the way she spoke of the sea, the shipwreck, and the secrets it held. As they drew closer to the cove, the cliffs rose steeply on either side, a breathtaking sight that stirred Eliz's heart. He maneuvered the boat with a feeling of pride, feeling powerful as he guided them toward the unknown, a true explorer setting sail on a quest for discovery. The cove opened up before them, revealing hidden beaches and rocky outcrops that beckoned to be explored. The crystalline water sparkled invitingly, an azure expanse that promised treasures waiting just below the surface. Billet secured the boat, and they hopped onto the soft sand, laughter escaping their lips as they ventured onto the shore. The air was fragrant with the scent of salt and wildflowers, mingling in perfect harmony, and the waves danced playfully at their feet. They wandered further, discovering sea glass glimmering like jewels amid the rocks, pieces of broken bottles shaped by time and tide. Philip picked up a fragment, holding it to the light, feeling a connection to the past, to those who had walked the shore long before them. Anar filled her pockets with the smooth stones, each a small treasure of nature's handiwork. "Look at this!" she exclaimed, holding up a piece of shell intricately patterned. Halil leaned closer, entranced by the way the sun caught the shell's iridescence. "Every piece has a story," he mused, glancing up at her. "Just like us," she replied with a smile, her eyes sparkling. He nodded, feeling the warmth of their companionship grow as they continued to explore, the cove revealing more secrets as they ventured deeper into its embrace. Each step along the sandy shore felt like an invitation to uncover the past and create new memories. Time danced by gently as they climbed the rocky outcroppings, laughter echoing against the cliffs. Together, they marveled at the way the sea ebbed and flowed, its mystery stretching far beyond what they could see. Billet felt the thrill of discovery coursing through his veins, a feeling of belonging to this beautiful world painted in shades of blue and green. As the sun reached its zenith, casting a warm glow over the cove, they decided to rest beneath the shade of a grand rock formation. They sat side by side, the sound of the waves lulling them into a comfortable silence. Hilaire reached for the conch shell, the weight of it solid in his hand, and turned to Inara. "Do you think we'll find anything like this here?" he asked, glancing at the glistening sea. "I hope so," she replied, a look of wonder in her eyes. "Imagine if we found something that tells a story, something that connects us to the sailors of the past." With each breath, Liv felt the weight of their dreams surrounding them, the sea a canvas for their imaginations to paint upon. The sun began its slow descent, casting golden hues over the cove, and Alir realized that time itself felt stretched, as though the day was wrapping them in a gentle embrace. They returned to their exploration, eager for what lay ahead, searching among the rocks and tide pools, discovering tiny sea creatures and anemones swaying with the gentle movement of the water. Each find became a shared treasure, a mark of their adventure. As dusk began to paint the sky with strokes of pink and orange, Bleh and in our shared stories, dreams mingling with the whispers of the sea, they spoke of distant lands they might one day visit, of sailors' tales that called to them from the horizon. With the sun sinking lower, the world began to shift into twilight, shadows stretching long across the cove. Olive felt a pull to return home, yet a part of him wished to linger in this magical place, to capture the moment forever. "Let's come back," Inara suggested, her voice filled with warmth. "We have so much more to discover." He nodded, understanding that this day was merely the beginning. Next time, we should bring a picnic, imagine enjoying this with food and laughter under the stars. Yes, she agreed, her eyes sparkling at the thought of more adventures. As they made their way back to the boat, Ella held the conch shell tightly, the day's treasures nestled in his heart. The world felt right, each moment rich with possibility, and the bond he shared with Inara deepening with every shared experience. Together, they glided across the gentle waves toward home, the moon rising overhead, casting a silver path across the water. The village came into view, the flickering lights welcoming them back, and as they neared the harbor, Len knew that the stay would linger in his memory like a cherished dream. When they reached the dock, the air felt rich with promise, and the soft sound of the sea continued to weave through their hearts. Eliz stepped onto solid ground, turning to Inara with a smile. Today was perfect, he said, feeling grateful for the adventure they had shared. It truly was, she replied, her smile reflecting that same joy. As they walked back through the village, the stars began to twinkle overhead, dotting the deepening blue with shimmering lights. The night felt alive with the stories from the sea, inviting them to dream of all the adventures yet to unfold. Back in his room, Lip placed the conch shell on his bedside table, the smooth surface a comforting reminder of the day's discoveries. He settled into bed, the warmth of the blankets wrapping around him, his heart full, mind still humming with the echoes of laughter and secrets still to uncover. The rhythmic sound of waves outside seemed to carry the promise of tomorrow, adventures waiting to be discovered. With his eyes closed, Lil allowed the world around him to fade, surrendering to the gentle pull of sleep, knowing that in his dreams he would continue to explore the endless possibilities that the sea held. The harbor sighed softly, a lullaby of nature, as the lid drifted deeper into slumber, the mysteries of the cove and the joys of friendship weaving a serene tapestry of dreams, ready to awaken once more with the dawn of a new day. Malay shifted the oars in his hands, feeling the familiar weight as he dipped them into the turquoise water. Anar sat at the bow, her hair catching the morning light like spun gold, her eyes sparkling with expectation. "Ready?" she called, a grin spreading across her face. "Always," Hilaire replied, and with a gentle push, they glided away from the dock, the rhythmic sound of the oar slicing through the water accompanied by the laughter of children on the shore. The village receded behind them, a quaint scattering of buildings framed by the coastal cliffs. As they rowed, Blake glanced toward the horizon, where the sea met the sky in a seamless embrace, the colors shifting like a painter's palette under the sun. The air felt fresh and crisp, each breath filled with the salty tang that made his heart race with excitement. "Let's try to find that shipwreck today," Inara suggested, her enthusiasm shining brightly. Belay nodded, recalling the tales he had heard from the fishermen's stories of the vessel that had met its fate during a storm years ago, its remnants resting quietly on the ocean floor. "I wonder what treasures we might discover," he mused aloud, imagining the fragments of the past hidden beneath the waves. As they approached the cove, the water began to change, ripples morphing into deeper hues of blue. Belay felt the boat shift slightly beneath them, and he adjusted his grip on the oars. The cove was sheltered, surrounded by rocky outcroppings, and the gentle lapping of the waves against the shore turned to a soothing rhythm. "Look there," Nara pointed excitedly toward a cluster of rocks jutting from the water, sunlight reflecting off their surfaces like diamonds. "I think we should explore those first." Liz smiled at her adventurous spirit. Absolutely. Let's see what's hidden among them. With a few strong strokes, he guided the boat closer to the rocks, the water now calm and inviting. They anchored the boat and climbed onto the smooth stones, feeling the warmth of the sun beneath their feet. The world around them felt alive, each sound enriched by the vibrancy of the moment. Anara knelt near a tide pool, her fingers tracing its edges. Look at all the little creatures, she exclaimed, eyes wide with wonder. Tiny crabs scuttled around, and bright orange sea anemones waved gently with the current. Led joined her, peering into the pool, captivated by the miniature world unfolding before them. It's like a hidden universe, he whispered, the excitement in his voice barely contained. Time slipped away as they spent moments marveling at the life teeming within the tide pools, Lake collecting small shells while Anar observed the movements of the sea life, her laughter ringing like music in the air. Once they gathered enough treasures, they returned to the boat, their hearts full of delight. The way the sun sparkled on the water heightened their spirits, and a feeling of contentment surrounded them. Where to next? Anar asked, her bright eyes casting over the horizon. The shipwreck, Blair replied, his voice steady with determination, just a little further down the coast. With a shared nod, they set off once more, the boat gliding through the azure waters. Blair felt a peaceful rhythm taking over him, the gentle rocking of the boat harmonizing with the whispers of the wind. After a short while, the shape of an old mast emerged in the distance, weathered and worn but still standing tall against the sky. Blair's heart surged with excitement. They had found it. There it is, he shouted, his voice filled with wonder. Anar's eyes sparkled as they drew nearer. It looks incredible, she breathed, her passion igniting as they approached the remnants of the ship. Belay anchored the boat, and they carefully made their way to the shallow water surrounding the wreckage, their feet feeling the coolness of the sea beneath them. As they stepped onto the sunken deck, a mixture of awe and reverence settled in Eli's chest. The wood was slick and barnacle encrusted, but he could still sense the history embedded in every fiber. He knelt down, sliding his fingers across the weathered surface, imagining the lives that had sailed upon this very vessel. Belay, look! Anara called, her voice echoing through the tranquil water. She was kneeling beside a cluster of shells and fragments scattered on the ocean floor, a small glimmer catching her eye. What did you find? He asked, moving closer to her. A compass, she grinned, holding it up triumphantly, the metal dulled by time yet still gleaming with an air of mystery. Wow, that's incredible, Blair replied, his eyes wide as he examined the find. The compass told tales of voyages long past, journeys taken and adventures embarked upon, a treasure in its own right. They spent the next hour exploring the wreck, uncovering bits and pieces that spoke of the ship's story. Anara found bits of porcelain and glass, and the lid discovered an old bottle, its glass marred by sand but still whole. They shared stories, imagining the lives of those who had sailed, their laughter mingling with the sounds of the sea. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting elongated shadows across the deck. The light bathed everything in soft oranges and pinks, and Olivia felt a feeling of tranquility wash over him as though time itself had slowed. Shall we head back soon? Anar asked after a moment, glancing toward the horizon now painted with hues of dusk. With a nod, Blake carefully placed the compass and other treasures into the boat. We can come back tomorrow, explore more, there's so much to discover, he suggested, feeling the familiar sense of excitement swell within him at the thought of further adventures to come. Once they were settled back in the boat, Blake pushed off from the wreck with steady strokes, gliding past the rocks that had cradled them just hours before. The water shimmered with the last rays of sunlight, and the air turned cooler against their skin. As the village came back into view, the evening light cast a golden glow over the familiar scene, the sounds of the villagers mingling with the calls of gulls above. A sense of warmth enveloped Ole, a comforting reminder of home wrapping around him. When they reached the dock, Anara jumped out first, her laughter mingling with the rustling leaves. Ole followed, excitement still bubbling inside as they secured the boat. Today was wonderful, Anara said, turning to him with a smile that lit up her whole face. Ole nodded. his heart swelling. "I can't wait to go back. We have the compass now. It feels like we have our own little guide to the past." As they walked back through the village, the sun dipped below the horizon, flickers of light from windows illuminating the path before them. The evening was settling in, casting soft shadows that danced along the cobblestones as they strolled. "Let's show everyone what we found," Anara suggested, her excitement infectious. Billy agreed eagerly, and they headed toward the lively square, where villagers gathered to share stories and laughter as twilight settled around them. The air was filled with the scent of freshly baked bread and roasted fish, mingling with the sounds of music drifting from nearby homes. As they entered the square, Billy felt a ripple of anticipation. Anara held up the compass triumphantly, her enthusiasm heralding their adventure. A small crowd gathered, eyes wide with interest as Anar recounted their journey to the shipwreck and the treasures they had unearthed. Billy added details, weaving their story into the fabric of the moment, the villagers listening intently, their faces glowing in the warm light of lanterns. Billy felt a deep sense of belonging, a connection to this place and these people who shared in the wonder of their discovery. The laughter, the stories, and the camaraderie filled Lil with an indescribable joy. As darkness enveloped the village, the stars began to dot the sky, shimmering above as though echoing the happiness of the gathering below. When the evening began to wind down and families started to disperse, Lit and Anar lingered a little longer, sharing their excitement about the day's adventures. "Tomorrow, we'll explore more around the wreck," Anar said, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. "Who knows what else we might find, or what stories we might uncover," Blair replied, feeling the weight of the day settle comfortably around them. As they finally said their goodbyes and made their way home, the quiet sounds of the harbor wrapped around them, the rhythm of the waves continuing to sing their lullaby. Once inside his room, Blip placed the compass on his bedside table next to the conch shell, each object a reminder of the day, the discoveries they made, the stories they shared, and the bond that grew stronger with each adventure. He settled into bed, the soft rustle of the wind outside merging with the gentle lull of the sea. Blake closed his eyes, thinking of the treasures that awaited, the secrets still hidden beneath the waves. With a heart full of dreams and a mind alive with possibilities, he drifted off to sleep, knowing that tomorrow would bring new adventures, waiting just beyond the horizon. The night wrapped the village in a gentle blanket of stillness, the sounds of the waves soothing and rhythmic, like a distant lullaby. Billy's dreams danced between visions of glistening treasures and the echoes of laughter shared under the lantern-lit sky. He awoke a few hours later, the moonlight spilling softly through his window, casting silver shadows across the floor. Sitting up, he stretched, feeling the promise of dawn still lingering in the air, though it would be several hours before the sun would fully rise. The compass and the conch shell caught the moonlight, their surfaces glimmering with a soft sheen that reminded him of the treasures they had uncovered. Blake could hardly contain his excitement and resolved to return to the cove as soon as possible. He quietly slipped from his bed, careful not to disturb the heavy silence of the night. Heading over to the window, he looked out at the harbor, where the boats bobbed gently, their masts swaying like the branches of trees in a soft breeze. The world outside lay tranquil, the occasional sound of a distant wave lapping against the shore or the call of a seabird breaking the quiet as though reminding him of the life that thrived just beyond the confines of his room. A few moments later, he decided to step outside. Slipping on his shoes and wrapping a light coat around his shoulders, he made his way down the creaky staircase, each step echoing softly in the stillness of the night. The door opened with a gentle creak, and the cool night air enveloped him, carrying the scent of salt and earth. With bare feet guiding him over the cobblestones, Bliss stepped into the moonlit courtyard, feeling a feeling of peace wash over him. The stars twinkled like jewels against the deep navy sky, creating a canvas that made his heart swell. A sliver of excitement filled his chest as he walked toward the harbor, the sound of the waves offering a serenade that drew him closer. As he reached the edge of the water, he took a moment to breathe in the cool air, letting it fill his lungs. The sea stretched before him like a vast tapestry, shimmering under the moonlight. The gentle ripples glinted silver, and he could hear the soft murmur of the waves, a calming presence that invited him closer. Near the cove, Where the shipwreck rested, he could see the outlines of the masts rising above the water, visible even in the dark. His heart raced at the thought of exploring more. Thoughts of what lay hidden beneath the surface sent shivers of anticipation through him. A few treasures might still linger in the depths, waiting for daylight to reveal their secrets. Below felt a gentle pull toward the water, the soft sand cool against his feet as he stepped closer to the edge of the cove. The moon cast a pathway of light across the water, guiding his gaze down to the shallow depths. There, beyond the rocky embrace of the shoreline, the shadowy outline of the shipwreck loomed, mysterious and inviting. He knelt down, watching the gentle movements of the water, mesmerized by the reflections that danced across the surface. It wasn't just the lure of finding more treasures, but the stories these items held of lives lived, journeys taken, and dreams woven into the fabric of days gone by. As time slipped away, Will lost himself in the tranquility of the night, his heart calm amidst the mystery of the sea. He could almost imagine the voices of sailors long past, their laughter mingling with the calls of the night birds, each echo a connection to a time when the ship was alive with purpose. Suddenly, the soft sound of a footfall turned his attention. Anar emerged from the shadows, her face lit by the same bright moon that illuminated their shared world. She approached quietly, a smile blooming across her features. "I thought I might find you here," she said softly, her voice blending with the waves. Blair returned her smile, the thrill of companionship igniting his spirit. "I couldn't resist the cove calls to me at night." "Didn't you sleep?" "I did," she replied, settling beside him on the cool sand, "but the thought of exploring the wreck again tugged at me. I had to come." The two of them sat in comfortable silence, gazing out over the water, sharing the moment under the vast expanse of stars. Each breath filled with the scent of brine and the promise of adventure. After a while, Bullet turned toward her. "What do you think we'll find tomorrow?" "I don't know," Anar said thoughtfully, "but I feel like there's something waiting for us, something important." Their eyes met, understanding passing between them, an unspoken bond forged through shared dreams and discoveries. Together, they could uncover the mysteries held in the depths, rewriting the stories that lingered on the edges of memory. "We should take more tools," Liz suggested, "so we can dig deeper or reach into places we couldn't before." "Good idea," Anar nodded excitedly. "Maybe I can find my father's old fishing gear. There's sure to be something useful in there." As they spoke, the sky began to shift slightly, hinting at the approach of dawn. The first light of morning would soon begin to chase away the darkness, but for now, the world remained ensconced in serenity. Philip felt a gentle yearning for the sea, the treasures hidden below, and the stories yet to be uncovered. There was magic in the mystery, and he was grateful to share it with someone who understood, who felt the same tug of the unknown. As the light crept inch by inch across the horizon, Lil leaned back on his hands, feeling the sand beneath him and the cool breeze brushing against his skin. He could already imagine the thrill of diving into the water, the anticipation of uncovering yet another piece of history, another fragment of a life once lived. "I can't wait for the sun to rise," he whispered, feeling the excitement bubble up within him. "Tomorrow will be a new beginning." Anara nodded, her gaze fixed on the water, where the first glimmers of sunlight began to pierce the darkness. "And who knows what we'll find? Maybe even a story that needs to be told." With the thought lingering sweetly in the air, Philip felt his heart swell with hope. Their adventure was only just beginning, the boundless depths of the cove calling them forth into a new day. As the colors of dawn began to paint the sky, he felt the feeling of calm wash over him, the promise of what was to come, a warm light in their shared horizon. But time passed slowly in that magical moment, the anticipation hanging between them like a delicate thread that bound them to their dreams. They stayed there quietly, hand in hand, as the world transformed around them, the vibrant colors of a new day emerging from the likes of shadows that had cloaked the night. With the sun finally rising, casting a golden hue over the landscape, Philip felt a surge of warmth within him, a palpable sense of belonging that resonated deep in his spirit. The scent of the ocean air invigorated him, filled with possibilities that danced along the edges of his imagination. It would be a day of discovery, a day that promised to weave more stories into the rich fabric of their lives, a day where the sea would reveal its treasures once more. With an by his side, he knew they would chart their course together, exploring the depths of the cove and uncovering its lost secrets. And as the first rays of sunlight cast their glow upon the harbor, Liv felt a gentle thrill, the adventures that awaited just beyond the horizon speaking to his heart in quiet tones. Together, with every wave and every treasure, they would create a tale of friendship and discovery that would last long after the tides had settled. The moon hung high in the sky, casting ribbons of silver light across the water, shimmering waves reflecting the beauty of the night. Alet and Enar sat quietly, the rhythmic sound of the tides lulling them into a gentle reverie. The air was crisp, charged with the essence of salt, and filled with the promise of adventure, the serenity of the moment blending perfectly with their shared dreams. A soft breeze ruffled Aliz's hair as he turned to Enar, her eyes bright with anticipation. The excitement they felt was palpable, electric against the cool night. "Shall we return tomorrow, then?" he asked, his voice steady and calm, a promise woven into the question. Anara nodded, her lips curving into a smile that lit up her features. "We will find it," she said, her belief unwavering. "I can feel it in my bones the stories are waiting for us." Alea felt warmth spread in his chest at her words. Each day held its own mysteries, treasures waiting to be unveiled, and with her enthusiastic spirit by his side, the journey felt all the more promising. They shared stories of what they hoped to find. Bliss spoke of artifacts that might carry whispers of the lives once lived aboard the vessel. The ship had seen different tides and storms, moments of joy and sorrow, and in his imagination, he could almost hear those echoes carried through time. As the hour grew late, the stars twinkled brightly above them, sentinel bodies watching over the harbor. Bliss' gaze drifted across the water, where the silhouette of the shipwreck loomed like a guardian of secrets. He wondered what stories were entangled in the barnacles that clung stubbornly to its frame, what dreams had crumbled beneath its waves. "I can't help but wonder what the sailors felt the last night they were here," Bella mused. "Were they afraid, or perhaps they embraced the wildness of the sea? Maybe they were like us," and Ara replied thoughtfully, her voice quiet yet resonant against the backdrop of the lapping waves. "Hopeful for new beginnings, dreaming of the adventures that lie ahead." The weight of her words lingered in the air, a thread connecting the past with their present. They shared a moment of silence, the night wrapping around them, each caught in their thoughts of the sea and the untold stories waiting to be uncovered. As the moon began its slow descent, the world around them shifted softly, the colors of the night deepening into hues that whispered of change. With the late hour approaching, Blair reluctantly rose from the ground, brushing the sand from his trousers. "We should head back. We have much to prepare for in the morning," he said, glancing down the cove, where their small cottage nestled among the rocks, a warm haven against the cool night air. Anar stood beside him, her silhouette framed by the moonlight. "I'll gather the old netting and hooks from my father's shed. Those might help us reach deeper into the wreck." Her determination fueled Liz's excitement, and together they began their trek along the shoreline, the sound of their footsteps muffled by the soft sand. As they walked, the moonlight danced on the water, casting a luminous path that seemed to lead them home. Once inside the cottage, the familiar scent of aged wood mixed with the salt of the sea filled their senses, grounding them in the cozy space that had been their sanctum for moments like this. Anara moved to rummage through the clutter of nets and tools, her brow furrowed in concentration, while Lil lit a lantern, the soft glow illuminating the room in a warm embrace. "Here it is," she said triumphantly, producing a tangle of knitting that glimmered faintly as it caught the light. "It's a bit worn, but it should hold." Bella felt a surge of gratitude for her resourcefulness. "Perfect, we can use it to navigate around the wreck, maybe even pull something out if we're lucky." They spent the next hour preparing, organizing their tools, and sharing gentle laughter, their conversation interspersed with stories of previous adventures and dreams for tomorrow. Bella found solace in these moments, where their hopes intertwined, painting a picture of all they could uncover together. As the hour grew later, Bella noticed fatigue settling into his bones, a gentle reminder of the long day they had ahead. "We should rest soon," he said, stifling a yawn. Anara nodded in agreement, her eyes glimmering with a soft light. "Tomorrow will come quickly," she replied, her voice laced with a quiet excitement. They both made their way to their shared sleeping area, a cozy nook tucked in the corner of the cottage, adorned with worn blankets and pillows that had absorbed countless dreams. As they settled in, the sounds of the night surrounded them, a distant seagull calling out, the gentle roar of the waves, and the movement of the wind through the trees. Billy closed his eyes, surrendering to the embrace of sleep, thoughts gently drifting towards the adventure that awaited them. He imagined the depths of the cove, the treasures glistening in the water, and the stories waiting to be told. As he sank into slumber, he felt a quiet sense of purpose, their journey together weaving magic between the realms of the past and present. The next morning emerged slowly, soft light spilling through the windows, illuminating the cottage in gentle warmth. Blair woke to the sound of seagulls squawking in the distance, the rich scent of the ocean air filtering in through the open window. He stretched, feeling the lingering traces of dreams melting away, replaced by palpable excitement. "Anara," he called softly, remembering the promise they had made. "It's time." He found her already stirring, a smile blossoming on her face as she sat up, her hair tousled like seaweed. "I thought I'd wake you," she replied, her voice still thick with sleep. They shared a moment of laughter that filled the room, the joy of anticipation wrapping around them. Billy felt his heart race as they dressed and prepared for the day ahead, each motion filled with purpose and excitement. Outside, the sun had risen, casting a brilliant light over the harbor, painting the world in shades of golden azure. The shoreline sparkled like a blanket of jewels, and the air buzzed with the sounds of the waking village, fishermen preparing their boats for the day's catch, waves crashing gently against the rocks. As they made their way back to the cove, Billy glanced at the shipwreck, its outline standing solemnly against the backdrop of the vibrant sea. "Let's do this," he whispered to Inara, feeling a thrill course through him. Together, they waded into the shallow waters, the coolness wrapping around their legs as they approached the remnants of history. Inara gripped the net tightly, anticipation in her eyes. "We'll uncover its secrets today," she declared, her voice filled with conviction. Billy nodded, feeling the weight of the moment settle around them. With every splash of water, they inched closer to the shipwreck, the mysteries of the past whispering through the currents. As they began their dive into the depths, both felt the serene embrace of the ocean pulling them deeper, guiding them toward the treasures that lay below. And so, their adventure unfolded under the watchful eye of the sun, each dive into the vast blue revealing fragments of lives long gone and stories yearning to be told. With every treasure they unearthed from the depths of the cove, Bleh and Anar wove their own thread into the narrative of the sea, a bond of friendship and discovery that would remain long after the tides had settled. The sun reached its zenith, casting bright rays over the glimmering water, illuminating the lit and Anar as they explored the shipwreck. With each dive, treasures emerged from the sands, weathered items, corroded coins, and fragments of pottery, each bearing witness to stories of the past. Their laughter mingled with the sounds of the waves, creating a symphony that resonated with the heartbeat of the sea. By mid-afternoon, they surfaced, exhilarated, their arms laden with the discoveries of their underwater expedition. Anar held up a small brass bell, its surface etched with intricate designs, a relic of a time when it had called sailors to meals or alerted them to storms. "Look at this," she explained, her voice buoyant with joy. Below examined it closely, fingertips brushing against the cold, tarnished metal. It must have belonged to the captain, he mused, imagining the stories that Bell had witnessed, the echoes of commands and laughter that had faded into memory. They exchanged glances filled with a shared understanding, the weight of history settling comfortably between them. As the afternoon light began to soften, casting long shadows across the sandy beach, they returned to the shore, setting their treasures atop a large rock. Each object was a piece of a puzzle, and together they began to arrange their finds, creating a small display of their day's work. The sun's descent painted the sky in hues of lavender and gold, a soothing backdrop to their newfound treasures. "Imagine if we could trace the origins of these," Inara suggested, her eyes twinkling as she picked up a shard of blue pottery. Every piece could tell us something about the people who were once here. Ella nodded, captivated by the thought. We could find stories buried beneath the layers of time. The conversation flowed easily as they shared ideas about the shipwreck, their voices blending with the gentle sounds of the waves lapping against the shore. The world around them felt alive, each moment draped in the warmth of camaraderie and discovery, the village bustling behind them as fishermen returned with their day's catch, nets heavy with glimmering fish. As dusk arrived, the horizon deepened into shades of night, and the air turned cooler. They gathered their treasures, deciding to head back to the cottage, their hearts light with the thrill of adventure. The sky slowly surrendered to darkness, stars twinkling overhead like scattered diamonds. The lighthouse stood tall in the distance, its beams slicing through the night, a reassuring guide for those navigating the harbor. Inside the cottage, the comforting aroma of a simple meal awaited them. An hour set the table while Alice stoked the fire, a glow warming the room against the encroaching chill of the night. They shared stories, laughter mingling with the crackling flames, their hearts swelling with a feeling of fulfillment. I never knew exploring could feel so significant, Lee confessed, glancing at their scattered treasures. Each item stirred a feeling of purpose within him, an awareness of the lives entwined with their own. After dinner, they settled into the cozy nook by the fireplace, the flickering shadows dancing on the walls. Lee picked up the brass bell, turning it in his hands. Maybe we should find out more, seek the stories behind these treasures. It could be a new adventure. Anara nodded, excitement shimmering in her gaze. I'd love that we could talk to the villagers, learn if they know anything about the shipwreck and its past. The fire crackled softly around them, a tranquil backdrop to their dreams of future explorations. Anara leaned back, her head resting against the warm wooden wall as the night deepened outside. Below watched her, a quiet warmth blooming in his chest, thankful for this bond they had forged through shared discovery. As the clock struck midnight, the world outside fell into a hushed silence. The harbor lay still, the gentle waves caressing the shore, a lullaby for the weary. Liv felt the feeling of calm wash over him, the day's adventures mingling with the promise of tomorrow. He closed his eyes, allowing the warmth of the fire to envelop him. In the stillness of the cottage, he could feel the gentle pull of sleep, inviting him to rest. Anara's breathing beside him was rhythmic and peaceful, guiding him into the depths of tranquility. With thoughts of the treasures they had uncovered and the stories yet to unfold, Liz surrendered to the embrace of sleep, the quiet harbor cradling him in its gentle hold.